Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto and Hinata Were Demonic Couples. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The voice of a young female teenager shouted, Naruto.kun, as she pursued the blonde-haired Uzumaki Naruto as he left Konoha gates alongside an elderly white-haired pervert. Naruto quickly spun around to confront the bluish-black-haired beauty Hyuga Hinata, asking, Huh? Hinata? Chan? Her lavender Hyuga eyes were pupilless, a family bloodline, and she was around 14 years old, the same age as Naruto. Knowing that Naruto would be gone for 3 years on his training trip, Hinata was already flushed. However, she was aware of her obligations. I came to say goodbye. Naruto grinned broadly and said, Don't worry, I'll see you again in 3 years. His blue eyes gleamed with anticipation. No, you won't? Oh, Hinata thought. She grinned at her crush and said, Well, have fun. And don't get into too much trouble. He laughed and said, Me? Trouble? Never. She gathered all her courage for this moment and embraced Naruto, whispering in his ear, Love you, always. Then she gently pressed her lips to his. He wasn't supposed to know that she wouldn't see him again after today. After 3 years. Hyuga Hinata, you are also loved. I'm coming back for you because I love you, even though it may have taken me 3 years to realize how I feel about you. As Naruto leapt from branch to branch, those thoughts continued to reverberate in his mind. Naruto, who was now 17 years old, had developed significantly throughout his training. He was ripped, all right. He was no longer short and had lost all of his baby fat. He was now taller than Jiraiya and most likely all of his former pals. His cerulean blue eyes gleamed with excitement, and his blonde hair was a shade longer but still fell short of his shoulders. He noticed Roki, a golden-colored fox with vivid blue eyes, running obediently by his side as he looked down to his left. For the past 2 years or so, Roki and Naruto had been together constantly. Although Roki's mind was essentially the same as that of the Kyuubi no Kitsune that resided in Naruto's stomach. In response to Roki's nod, Naruto grinned and said, Come on, Roki. Let's go see the Hokage. The two then accelerated toward Konoha. Jiraiya the legendary Sannin, a white-haired pervert, insisted, Wait for me, and sped up. 6 minutes and 40.2 seconds later, the trio, had arrived at the famous Konoha's front gates, the home they called home. Naruto grinned as he looked up at the crowd of people waiting outside the gates, all of them grinning broadly, anticipating the arrival of the new Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto shouted, I'm home, and, with a sudden speed boost, arrived at the group with a smile on his face. The first to speak was Haruno Sakura, who had unusually pink hair. Hey, Naruto, good to see you back, she said. Naruto's former crush on the girl. Hey Sakura. He returned the girl's smile. How cute. You've got a fox, Ino exclaimed, glancing at Roki, who was still standing beside Naruto and excitedly waving his tail. A little overweight man named Shoji asked absently as he dug through a packet of chips, So what have you been up to? Everything, Naruto exclaimed, peering through his friends' faces. Among those present were Sakura, Shoji, Shikamaru, Tenten, Lee, Ino, Kiba, Shino, and even the Hokage, Tsunade, along with her helper Shizune. He was disappointed to see Hinata absent, but Neji was also absent, so it was most likely a clan issue. When he heard Neji say, Sorry, I'm late, there was a clan meeting and I had to be there. Naruto grinned again, and this time he was correct. A few seconds later, his smile faded. Since Hinata had not yet appeared, Hey, Neji. Where's Hinata, Chan? The faces of everyone but Jiraiya and Naruto fell. And Naruto began to panic after observing all of their facial expressions. Is she okay? What happened to her? Is she alive? He asked Tsunade, Chan, what happened to her, because he couldn't stand the last question. Slow down, Naruto. She's still alive, said Tsunade as she took a step forward. As he turned to go, a hand snagged the edge of his jacket and he exclaimed, So where is she? The hospital. Let her finish. Jiraiya was staring down at him when he looked up. Tsunade sighed and led the others dutifully toward the Hokage mansion, saying, Here, we'll explain all this in my office. When Naruto and Roki were standing in front of the Hokage's desk and everyone was seated in his office, Tsunade began to explain. Tsunade left, looking through one of the drawers on her desk and taking out a folder. It was 3 years ago. Right after you had left for your training mission. Hinata had gone missing, and no. One knew why. That's when I got a note, she said. She carefully removed a piece of paper from it and gave it to Naruto, who began reading it out loud. Wait. Tsunade replied, but the rest of you are unable to know the contents of this letter. So don't read it aloud, Naruto. They followed instructions, but that only piqued the interest of the others. Naruto kept reading, but not aloud this time. Tsunade. Sama, let me start by saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I must do this to you. You have no idea how much I wish I had another option, but I don't. However, I suppose it's for the best. I realize now that I need to explain myself. I am no longer in Konoha. Permanently. I apologize, but I am unable to return. My clan is the cause. What was my clan, anyway? To marry some jerk, I was to be cast into the branch family and given the cage. Bird. Seal. It wasn't as bad as that, though. Aside from Naruto, please don't tell the rest of my classmates about this before I tell you the rest. He ought to know, in my opinion. Additionally, I hope you will remember that I meant what I said when I saw him before he left. In any case, I discovered why I was never considered good enough for the clan when I was 13. I'm a Jinchuriki. The Gobi, or 5-tailed wolf, is in my possession. Since only my clan knew, I suppose my life was easier than most Jinchurikis. Up until last year, not even I was aware. Alright, so the plan was to remove the Gobi from me and put her in my sister. That shouldn't be Hanabi's way of life. Nobody ought to. In addition, I would have perished if the Gobi had been removed from me. And I really don't have that on my list of things to do. Anyway, I apologize. I love you all, and I will stop at nothing to harm Konoha. Don't let this depress you. Instead, have a wonderful life. Additionally, it will be disastrous if you attempt to bring me back. I will simply perish at the hands of the Hyuga if I go back. Hyuga Hinata. No, I'm Hinata from now on. Only Hinata. P.S. I apologize. By the end of the letter, Naruto's eyes were filled with tears. Roki was looking down as well. Roki knew everything Naruto knew because she possessed the Kyuubi's mind, which allowed them to communicate with one another through thoughts. Naruto returned the letter to Tsunade with gentleness. She was just like me. She had been a Jinchuriki all along. His eyes began to well up with tears at the thought. Despite his attempts to sound calm, you could hear the emotion in his voice as he asked, "Where is she now?" After letting out a sigh and fighting back her own tears, Tsunade reached back into the folder and took out another sheet of paper. As Tsunade handed the paper to Naruto, she only remarked, "She has grown strong. Nin is missing. Hinata is her name, 17 years old. Class. S rank where? Not sure details. Hinata left Konoha when she was 14 years old, and since then, she has killed 3 Akatsuki members by herself, earning her S rank. She appears to pose no threat to villages and is only accompanied by Masaki, a large black wolf. Although she is dangerous to be around, she is seen assisting strangers. Strengths. Hinata is very good at taijutsu and byakugan techniques. You don't want to engage in close combat with her because she has developed a taijutsu style that is nearly unbeatable. She is also proficient in a wide range of water techniques, and Masaki the wolf is renowned for her skill set. Additionally, it appears that Hinata gave Masaki the byakugan, though no one knows how. Although she has a strong offensive game, the majority of her techniques are best suited for defense. In Kumogakure, her body and byakugan are valued at $296,000 if she is apprehended. Looking at Roki, Naruto pondered whether Masaki possessed the Gobi's mind in the same way that Roki did the Kyuubi's. However, Naruto had learned it from an elder at the Temple of Mizudane, a place. A random word I made up. His eyes widened abruptly as he realized. A retrospective an elder named Elder Gina stood in front of Jiraiya and Naruto as they entered a sizable temple. The older man grinned. I've had someone come to me not that long ago searching for the same thing. She was quite young too. I'd say she'd be the same age as you by now. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto, I am willing to help you. End of flashback. I'm sorry, Naruto. If it helps, she really looked up to you, Tsunade murmured. With a slow nod, Naruto said, I know. His only goal was to locate her. He was aware that he couldn't bring her back, though. I'm going for a walk. Tsunade stopped him just as he was about to leave. Tsunade reached into the folder once more and took out a sealed envelope, saying, Wait, Naruto. There was one more thing she left for you. She gave him the envelope with the words, Please give this to Naruto. Written on the front, explaining, We haven't opened it, since it wasn't addressed to us. After accepting the envelope, Naruto vanished out the door. Everyone wanted to see what was in that envelope, so they were all a little disappointed. However, they let him go because they knew it was most likely private. Standing atop the Hokage Mountains was Naruto. Except for Roki, who was by his side no matter what, he was alone. He sat down on the floor, tapped Roki's head, and then looked back at the envelope. "Kid, I know how much she meant to you. Recall that she promised to love you forever, which includes right now." In an attempt to console Naruto, Roki gave him a gentle tap on the shoulder. With a nod, Naruto opened the envelope and took out a piece of paper, but something dropped onto his lap instead. He picked it up carefully to examine it. A silver wolf hung on a black cord. After giving the wolf a quick smile and putting the necklace around his neck, he opened the letter. Naruto.kun, I will begin this letter in the same manner as the previous one. I apologize. I sincerely apologize for having to leave. I knew I wouldn't see you again, Naruto, so I told you I loved you before you left. I apologize for that as well, however, I will explain myself. You don't have to like me in return. Like everyone else who is aware of the Gobi, you can hate me. However, I want to express my gratitude. I appreciate you supporting me when I felt worthless and being there for me when I needed a friend. For that, I respect you. I fell in love with you because of it. I adore your perseverance, your positive outlook, and the way you smile and say you're fine even though I know you're not. Nobody who meets you would know that you've had a difficult life. To keep people from worrying about you, you smile. However, I've always had the ability to sense people's emotions. I can see how you truly feel on a deep level. However, it was your smile that truly won me over. However, it was the grin you had when you were genuinely joyful. I apologize. And I'm grateful. Look after yourself. You are Naruto, but I would advise you to stay out of trouble, and you are prone to trouble. I suppose I'll just say, don't die. Get stronger. Take on the role of Hokage. I will always love you, Hinata. After carefully folding the letter back up and placing it in the envelope, Naruto read it 3 times. His face was streaming with tears. Why did she have to leave? It was her damn family's fault. Hinata. Chan, please, I have to see you again. I need to tell you that I love you too. I don't like this Hyuga clan. Roki was complaining then. Hinata wasn't worthy. However, we will locate her once more, whatever it takes. After putting the letter in his pocket and nodding in agreement, Naruto got up and turned to face Konoha. I'll find you, Hinata. Chan. That's a promise. Naruto searched for the Hyuga compound as soon as he got back to Konoha. He bumped into Neji as he trudged toward the compound. Neji said, Hey, Naruto. How are you feeling? With a hint of worry. Naruto breathed deeply. Alright, I guess. I just really wasn't expecting this, and I miss her, you know. I take it you know why she left? Neji asked, nodding in agreement. She told me in the letter, so you know too? Naruto nodded. Yes, I do know about her, Tenant. I also know about yours. I don't think about you any differently because of it though. All Junin are told as they need to know just in case something happens. But Hinata's was new to me. I would never have expected it. Only the Hyuga elders knew about it before she left. Neji clarified. That startled Naruto a little, so he asked, did she know about me? Neji nodded. No, I don't think so. She wouldn't have acted any different if she did though. That's Hinata for you. She sees people on the inside other than on the outside. Her kindness was overwhelming and she didn't deserve this. Then Naruto blinked his tears back, refusing to let them fall. I know, before she left, she told me that she had feelings for me. I didn't know what to think, but while I was training I figured out a few things. And now, she's gone. Just when I find someone who loves me, they disappear. What are you going to do? Neji sighed. Give those Hyuga bastards a piece of my mind, snarled Naruto, and Roki responded with a bark. Neji breathed a sigh of relief. Wait, Naruto. Before you storm in there, you really need to think this thing through. Talk it out with someone so your rage isn't controlling you. Just don't go running in there expecting answers and beating people up. He said, but who will I talk to? No one knows what I'm going through. What else is there to it? You and I have already decided to destroy the Hyuga. Roki gave a frustrated growl. Roki, I don't think he's referring to you. Naruto reflected. Neji left after saying, talk to someone who cares. Someone you are close to. I'm concerned. Thus, a decision has been made. Come on. Who cares? Naruto ignored him. Hinata does care, though. She's also missing. I am unable to speak with anyone because they are unaware of Hinata's Biju or the Kyuubi. With an unhappy fox by his side, Naruto sighed and turned to head for his apartment. On his way home, Naruto heard his former teacher, Iruka, say, "Hey, Naruto. You're back. How are you doing? Learn anything new?" Naruto sighed and said, "Yeah. I guess. Do you want to talk about it?" Iruka asked Naruto, looking at him bewildered. When Naruto heard that, he truly grinned. He could speak with Iruka at any time. "Yes, I would like that." "Ramen?" grinned Iruka. With a gleam in his eyes, Naruto said, "Definitely." After a quick hello with Tuchi and Ayame, the employees of Ichiraku, the ramen stand, Naruto and Iruka had just placed their order. To ensure that no one else could overhear their conversation, Iruka and Naruto were seated at the far end of the stand. Roki was on guard to prevent anyone from interrupting. He was aware that Naruto needed to discuss this and hoped Iruka would have additional information regarding the Hyuga's disappearance. Worried, Iruka said, "So what's on your mind, Naruto?" "I heard that Hinata left the village about 3 years ago," Naruto sighed loudly. After learning that, Iruka sighed with dismay, saying, "She had a lot of talent. Just none of those Hyuga elders knew how to appreciate it." Depressed once more, Naruto uttered, "Damn right. She has killed 3 Akatsuki members. I just wish she never left. She was a kind young kunoichi. I could tell she was destined for great things when she was in the academy. She was a kind soul, the only one of your age that didn't laugh at you. I could tell she knew you were hurting. I was surprised she was hurting too. She was good at hiding it to make others feel better." Iruka let out a sad sigh. "I saw her before I left." Naruto acknowledged. "She came up to me before I walked out Konoha gates. She said good luck and confessed to me. I don't know what to do, Iruka. I just found a girl who actually likes me, and while I was gone, I think I actually fell for her. I wanted badly to get back to Konoha and see her again. But she isn't here, and I don't know what to do." Iruka gave Naruto a reassuring pat on the back, saddened by the distressed look on his face. Naruto and Hinata would have been a wonderful couple. In all honesty, he was convinced that they would eventually become a couple based on their behavior around one another in the academy. However, he surmised that this is not how things operate. When Naruto went on, he looked up and said, "It's terrible, you know. If I had known how she felt about me earlier, she might still be here. We would have been together and I would have found a way to stop the Hyuga from putting her in the branch family. She's like me, Iruka. She's a Jinchuriki. She doesn't know about mine, but I know she'll accept me. It's just not fair." Naruto had been holding back his tears the entire day, but now that he was speaking out loud and letting his heart out, he was unable to contain them any longer. Iruka agreed, saying, "I know. It isn't fair. Hinata would have accepted you, Naruto. Even if she didn't have a Biju in her, that's just the way she is. But she's gone. And she's not coming back to Konoha. The Hyuga made sure of that. But even in the academy it was obvious she had feelings for you, Naruto. She won't demolish those feelings, ever." Iruka acknowledged that this wasn't what Naruto wanted to hear, but he needed to know that she wouldn't be returning. "You just need to be strong. Like she is being strong now. If you can't be strong for yourself, be strong for her. She will always care for you, especially you." "I know. She told me she'll always love me before I left. But I love her, I really do, and I want her by my side," Naruto grumbled. "I'll do anything for that. She's away from her home, alone. I know what that's like, and it isn't a good feeling, being alone. I don't want anyone to feel like that, especially her. I love her." Iruka said reassuringly, "There is a chance you'll find her again," purposefully omitting the fact that she most likely wouldn't accompany him back to Konoha. With his left hand gripping his wolf necklace, Naruto shook his head and vowed, "No, Iruka. It's not a chance. I will find her again. It's a promise. And I always keep my promises." He was going to honor that pledge. Naruto benefited greatly from speaking with Iruka. Roki was curled up at his feet as he lay on his bed in his apartment, staring at the roof with a slight smile on his face. "I'm going to be Hokage. I'll put an end to the Hyuga clan's madness when that occurs. She will then be allowed to go back. Have faith. We should still massacre the Hyuga, in my opinion. To my taste, they're too haughty." Roki shared his thoughts. Naruto gave his accomplice a chuckle. "I've never seen anything so conceited as you. I never go a day without hearing about your unbeatable power and how, if you so desired, you could wipe out the entire planet." With a loud sigh, Naruto closed his eyes and fell asleep. And Sakura is a bitch in this fic. Okay. I just chose her at random because I've decided that someone has to be evil, and Ino is just doing as she says, but she will be good in a few minutes. After a few days. Why is there so much secrecy surrounding Hinata's disappearance? Sakura Haruno bemoaned to Ino Yamanaka, her best friend. Ino, who was well aware of the rumors circulating in Konoha, shrugged and said, "I'm not sure. I was told that she left because her family treated her badly and were going to send her off to Kumo because they'd pay for her Byakugan." Sakura let out a loud sigh and said, "That is a rumor. Why would they possibly do that? They don't want others knowing the Byakugan secrets." "Oh, yeah. You're right. Then why did she run away?" Ino asked, perplexed. With obstinacy, Sakura declared, "I believe she is a traitor. I never really liked her. She's probably just taking the coward's way out and leaving Konoha." Even more perplexed, Ino turned to face her friend and said, "But Sasuke left Konoha too, and you don't call him a traitor." "Sasuke would never do something like that. It's probably some secret mission so he can infiltrate Orochimaru's base because he's so strong and talented, only he can do it," Sakura thought to herself. Although Ino had her doubts, she dared not challenge her. "But hasn't Hinata killed 3 Akatsuki members? And isn't she S-ranked? I read that about her in the bingo book." Ino was puzzled. "That is obviously incorrect. You remember Hinata, don't you? She's a bad ninja. She really sucks. She would never be able to kill an Akatsuki member." Sakura sighed at her best friend's despair. After absorbing all of this information, Ino nodded and said, "Okay, then we gotta figure out why she left." Simply nodding in agreement, Sakura said, "And I know who will know." "Who?" Sakura laughed. "The only person who was able to read that letter today. Naruto." In order to avoid going over there and demanding answers, Naruto was avoiding thoughts of the Hyuga while he was strolling around the town. However, Roki's thoughts about how to torture the Hyuga were running through his mind, making that very challenging. The sight of Shikamaru and Choji outside a barbecue restaurant made him smile. It was exactly what he needed to distract himself. "Shikamaru. Choji," Naruto chanted as he rushed toward his 2 companions. With a smile, Choji said, "Hey Naruto." Looking at Naruto with a knowing expression, Shikamaru asked, "How are you? I heard you were pretty upset the other day." Naruto replied, "A little better, but I just have to get my mind off of things, so would you mind if I joined you?" "Come on then. The more the merrier," Choji grinned as he escorted everyone into the barbecue restaurant. After 5 minutes, they were all seated at one of the store's booths and Choji began to eat. "I heard that Sakura and Ino were looking for you." "What would they want me for?" Naruto asked, looking at them bewildered. "I'm not sure," Shikamaru sighed, "probably something troublesome." "To you, everything's troublesome," Choji murmured. "Is there anything untroublesome?" "Cloud watching, of course," Shikamaru grinned. Naruto chuckled. "I don't see what's so great about clouds. They bore me. All they do is float around all day." Naruto. "We were looking for you," was shouted at them as Shikamaru was about to respond, and Sakura was sprinting toward them with Ino at her side. "What is it, guys?" inquired Naruto. Sakura insisted, "We want to know about Hinata." With a suspicious expression, Naruto asked, "What about her?" Sakura began, "We want to know why that traitor left the villa," but Naruto cut her off. Roki growled at her in agreement as Naruto scolded her, saying, "She is not a traitor, got that? She didn't leave the village to befriend the enemy like someone I know. So don't accuse her of it." Shikamaru was a little perplexed as to why Naruto was so protective of Hinata, and he watched this confrontation with one eyebrow raised. Although he was aware of the Kyuubi and the reason behind Hinata's departure, he would not have predicted Naruto's feelings for the girl. Sakura was furious. "What's your problem? I just want to know what happened to her. Why are you so protective?" Defensive. The phrase reverberated in Naruto's mind. Damn it, he loved her, so he was protective. Sakura was accusing her of something she had never done and would never do, so he was protective. For now, "I'm protective because she's my friend," would suffice. Sakura grumbled, "But why won't you tell us? We need to know." "You don't need to know anything. I'll go on a date with you if you tell me," she attempted. Naruto snarled, "No, I don't want to go on a date with you." Incredulous, Sakura said, "But you've always wanted to go on a date with me." Naruto disagreed, saying, "Not anymore. Not for a long time." Sakura was now beginning to lose her temper. "Why not?" she asked. Naruto replied plainly, "Because I don't like you like that." Sakura yelled, "Fine, pig, we're leaving," and began to leave. Looking at Naruto, Choji, and Shikamaru, Ino desired to remain with them. She was annoyed by Sakura's cruel statement, "Sorry, forehead, I'm staying with these guys." When Ino sat down next to Choji, Sakura simply harumphed and kept walking away. "Sorry guys," Ino said. Sakura has been being really mean lately. Naruto sighed. I noticed. At last, Shikamaru made the decision to express his thoughts. You like her, don't you? With wide eyes, Naruto exclaimed. Who? Sakura? No way. Shikamaru remarked. Not Sakura. Hinata. With a loud sigh and a slight flush, Naruto asked, is it that obvious? Shikamaru clarified, not really, you're just really protective of her. I just didn't like how Sakura was talking about her, she didn't deserve it. Don't worry about it, Naruto. At least you're not still going after Sakura. And you still might see her again. I did? Shoji attempted to lighten the mood. You saw her? Sparked Naruto's curiosity. Yeah. I was on a mission with these guys. He looked at Ino and Shikamaru before continuing. She saved my life. We were ambushed by some missing nin, but she wasn't one of them. It was just after a fight we already had, so we were all pretty low on chakra. I didn't notice one get behind me, and I would have been dead if she didn't appear and push me out the way. She said a brief hello, and if she didn't stutter I wouldn't have known it was her. She told us to leave and she handled it. Shoji summarized. Naruto inquired, what did she look like? Shoji looked at Naruto. Well, she was wearing blue contacts so people wouldn't see she had the Byakugan, and she's grown her hair out. She still had her bangs, but the rest of her hair reached her waist. She wasn't much taller than I remembered her, but she had grown a lot. After taking in all of this new information, Naruto nodded and grinned a little. Thanks guys. I really needed to hear that she was okay. She still looks after Konoha even though she's a missing nin. She was really pretty too, Ino replied. Although I reckon her lavender eyes suit her better. She is strong enough to take care of herself, Shikamaru said with a smile and a pat on Naruto's back. With a nod, Naruto said, I know. Naruto was summoned to the Hokage's office at 7 in the morning. Since he had no missions for the remainder of the week, he entered the office a little perplexed as to why he was there. As he glanced around the room, he noticed a worried Shizune standing next to a suspicious Tsunade seated behind her desk. Naruto acknowledged, what's going on, Ba-chan? I don't get why I'm here. With a sigh, Tsunade held a letter in front of her and explained, well, I got this for you. But I'm concerned and a little bit worried as to what it actually is. It was sent to me, but is addressed to you. We have got our top sealers to try and open it and reveal its contents, but they have been unable to do so. So we are hoping that if we give it to the person it is addressed to, we will get some answers. She clarified, presenting it to Naruto. Just in case the contents of this letter were going to hurt him physically or something, Naruto immediately raised his defenses. He read the writing on the front of the letter that Tsunade had given him. Sama Tsunade, give this to Naruto Uzumaki. I can't send it to him directly because I don't know where he lives. This isn't going to open for you. Naruto is the only one who can. Thank you. Naruto's eyes gleamed and he smiled broadly, knowing who had sent it. You know who sent this to you? Tsunade inquired after noticing the smile as well. Yes. Hinata. He exclaimed with joy. Tsunade was somewhat taken aback by how he knew that, and how Hinata could obtain an envelope and then wait for Naruto to open it while he was holding it. The letter stated, Naruto.kun, I apologize for writing to you once more. Particularly if you despise me and don't want to see or speak with me. However, this is urgent. Not really, but I want to do everything in my power to assist you. I'm going to give you some information that will help you fulfill one of your commitments. Since you most likely want me to stop writing to you, I will no longer do so. I will only do so if I feel compelled to tell you or if it is urgent. I'm concerned that if I give this information to Tsunade, you won't receive it, which is why I sent it to you and you alone. I don't mean to offend her. Simply put, she will likely believe that it is best that you are unaware of it and will inform those in higher positions. Well, to begin, let me tell you about my encounter with Uchiha Sasuke. Other than being even more conceited than before, he hasn't changed much. If it's feasible, I had a heart conversation with him after getting rid of Kabuto, who he was then dating. Though I wasn't sure I could defeat him without seriously hurting myself, and I can't go to hospitals or anything because people will find out where I am. I considered knocking him out and sending him to Konoha, but I felt you should have the honor of doing that. Gobi Chakra is what I rely on to heal me, and I'm fairly certain it couldn't do the job. Naruto.kun, I have a good feeling that you are stronger than I am and that you will be able to fulfill your promise to bring him back. In any case, I was able to persuade Sasuke that Uchiha Itachi would be meeting with the Akatsuki close to the eastern boundary of Fire Country. In a month, this will take place. Be ready. And I'll be there to ensure your survival. You won't see me, though, so don't worry. I don't need bounty hunters to know where I'll be, so please don't tell anyone. I wish you luck and ask that you not die, Masaki and Hinata. XX. After reading that, Naruto was stunned. Hinata was aware of Sasuke's whereabouts. Despite being so far away, she continued to assist him. He grinned at the letter because he was growing more and more infatuated with her even when she wasn't around. The envelope also contained a map with a red circle around one location on the east edge of Fire Country. After looking up at Tsunade, Naruto handed her the letter and said, "You might want to read this." Before she could even read it, he added, "I am going on this mission." Tsunade simply read the letter and arched an eyebrow at him. After finishing, she sighed and turned to face Naruto. "All right," she said, "you will go with 2 other people of your choosing in a month, and one of them must be a Junin. You understand? Come to me once you have everything worked out." With a nod, Naruto vanished from the Hokage's office. Naruto ran up to the silver-haired man, who had a headband over his left eye and a mask over the lower portion of his face, and said, "Kakashi Sensei." Kakashi inquired, "What is it, Naruto? I want you to train me. I need to know how to fight against the Sharingan," Naruto clarified. As one of the few people who found out about Sasuke's whereabouts in a month, Kakashi nodded. "Okay, but I'll warn you. I'm not going to go easy on you." "Good." Naruto nodded. Kakashi said, "Okay, come to Training Ground 7, I'll meet you there." Then he and the Shunshin vanished. As Kakashi gave the order, Naruto showed up in the training area and waited for him. Before he was attacked, Kakashi only said, "Don't look at my eyes." That was the only warning he received. As he considered his strategy, Naruto nodded to himself and leapt back to make room. Before rushing at Naruto once more, Kakashi clarified, "Okay, you aren't allowed to look directly in my eyes or you will be a goner. Got it? Try and guess my moves by looking at my feet or sensing my movements. Only use taijutsu for now." Gazing at Kakashi's feet, Naruto attempted to dodge but was having trouble. He missed the knee to his stomach but ducked a blow to his left shoulder. Knowing that going on the attack would not help him, Naruto leapt backwards once more. When on the defensive, Naruto fared a little better, avoiding 3 of Kakashi's intended blows when he inadvertently glanced up too far and was caught in a genjutsu for staring into Kakashi's eyes. Fortunately, it was a straightforward genjutsu, and Naruto released it with a quick chakra burst. But by the time he was able to release the technique, it was too late. Kakashi had already slammed him, sending him flying across the training ground. Naruto had a difficult few days. However, he was gradually improving. He stopped observing Kakashi's feet because he thought they were too distracting. He closed his eyes completely and only used his other senses. The only issue with this was that Kakashi would fling objects and rocks in all directions, creating noise all around him, making it impossible for Naruto to locate him. Additionally, he began using jutsu against Naruto, which made things a little more difficult. As a result, Naruto had to stay in the hospital all day yesterday. Naruto was currently engaged in one of those training sessions. He was resolved to learn this new skill and felt better than he had yesterday. With his eyes closed, Naruto relied on his hearing and sense of smell. He was very fortunate because the Kyuubi gave him a premonition of both of those things. He was waiting in the center of the training field, motionless. Then, right behind him, he heard a foot strike the ground. He had to listen intently to hear Kakashi move because he was very good at the art of stealth. In an attempt to knock the copy ninja off his feet, Naruto swiftly ducked under the fist she could feel coming at his head and pulled one leg out to swing it around the ground. However, he knew the ninja must be in the air when he sensed that no one was in his way. He jumped back when he heard a smash coming from where he had been standing and felt the sparking of a chidori. His breathing had become labored. He took a deep breath and began to brace himself for another assault when he and Kakashi heard Shizun's voice. As she ran toward them, she yelled, "Naruto, Kakashi, Tsunade wants you in her office immediately." Naruto opened his eyes. "Roki," he cried, turning to face the gasping Shizun. In the training area, Roki was dozing off by a tree. He had not participated in this training, and he had no intention of watching since Naruto would be able to hear his thoughts and understand what was going on without using his own senses. Roki had thus been making use of this time to get some rest. However, as soon as he heard Naruto call, he leapt to his feet, ran to his side, and looked at Naruto. "What's going on?" "Tsunade. Chan wants to see us, but she's not sure yet." Shizun, Kakashi, and Roki hurried back to the Hokage's office after Naruto finished explaining. Naruto stormed into the office and asked, "What's going on, Tsunade?" Sakura was waiting for the others to arrive, already standing there. "Is it a mission? But my week isn't over yet." It's urgent, was her straightforward response. With seriousness, Kakashi questioned, what's happened? With a deadly serious expression on her face, Tsunade said, Gaara has been taken by the Akatsuki. Roki, Sakura, Kakashi, and Naruto were all running in Suna's direction. They needed to save Gaara, and they needed to get there fast. The Akatsuki captured Gaara earlier that morning, and if they continued at their current rate, they would arrive in Suna by tomorrow. Kakashi said in a foreboding tone, Naruto. Naruto looked up at Kakashi and asked, yeah. Kakashi spoke without paying attention to Naruto. Don't rush off to save Gaara when we reach Suna. Okay. We need to meet up with Temari and we need to find out where he is first. Okay. This is the quickest way to get it done, alright? Naruto complained, yeah, I can't believe Gaara got Cage. I agree. Since discovering that Gaara was now the Cage, he had been doing this once every 5 minutes. Sakura let out a frustrated sigh and said, yes, we know, Naruto. You've told us 50 times already. With a tentative nod, Naruto turned back to Kakashi and asked, okay. But how would they know where Gaara is when we get there? After giving it some thought, Kakashi concluded, I will probably have to summon Pakun or one of my other hound dogs to catch his scent. Naruto laughed. Don't worry, Roki has that covered. He has really advanced senses, even for a fox. Roki gave an approving bark. With a slightly suspicious glance, Kakashi said, I've been meaning to ask you about Roki, to the fox. Naruto cut him off before he could finish, saying, I would answer all your questions about him later because it's kind of confidential. He gave Sakura a quick glance that only Kakashi and he could see. Kakashi nodded, although his curiosity had slightly increased, because it was related to Kyuubi. For now, however, let it go. Naruto saw the girls standing in front of Tsunagakure and exclaimed, Temari. We're the team from Konoha to save Gaara, out loud. When Temari saw exactly who was on the team that would come and save her brother, she looked up with a big smile on her face. Temari hurried to the Cage's tower and said, come. We need to find him as quickly as possible. Temari led Team 7 to the Cage tower, where a Gaara secretary was waiting for them at the entrance. As she ran up one of the many staircases, Temari called out to the secretary, Masuchi, I'm going to go inform the elders. Take them to where Gaara was taken and hopefully they will be able to collect his scent. I'll meet you there. Temari then vanished. Masuchi walked toward Gaara's office, and Naruto followed her. Roki. Naruto commanded. Find the scent of Gaara or the Akatsuki and tell me which way they took him. Roki simply pushed his nose to the ground and barked in recognition. I'm coming with you. The door exploded open, revealing a girl standing there panting and dripping sweat, her brown shoulder length hair slightly sticking to her face. There's no way in hell that I'm going to stay here while my Gaara Kun's in trouble, she was panting. Masuchi pleaded, but Matsuri, San, Temari, Sama already stated that you were unable to go. With a gentle hand on her shoulder, Naruto approached the girl, who was clearly under a lot of stress. It's okay. If I were in your position and the girl I loved was taken by the Akatsuki, there would be nothing in my way to get to her. But Temari's right. I promise I'll get him back for you. Naruto comforted the girl as she began to cry once more. Temari appeared in the doorway out of nowhere and said, Matsuri, Chan, you need to go back home, relax sweetie. How can I relax? Gaara-kun might not be alive. I need to go out there and find him, Matsuri said, turning to glare at Temari. She wrapped the sobbing girl in her arms and tried to say, but Matt, Chan. Gaara wouldn't want you out there in harm's way. Where did they take Gaara? A feminine voice asked, standing in the middle of the room with a big wolf by her side, just as the window exploded open. Everyone was taken aback by this girl's speed. All Naruto could do was reach up and grasp the wolf pendant hanging down his neck while staring blankly at the beautiful figure in front of him, his breath caught in his throat. Her long bluish back hair fell to her waist, and her eyes were blue. Although she was still small in stature, she had gained a lot of weight since he had last seen her. However, it had been 3 years since Naruto last saw her. Misaki exclaimed, Who are you? You aren't supposed to be here. When the girl appeared out of nowhere, Hinata exhaled. Look, I'm sorry, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm here now and I'm getting my brother back, then I'll leave you peacefully, she said softly. Temari walked in the door and said, Let her go. She's a friend. Hinata grinned at Temari and said, Thank you, Temari-chan. I would say it's good to see you again, but I'm not in a good mood. Temari grinned at the girl and said, Well, you're going to help get my brother back, so that is all I need. Then Hinata saw the sobbing Matsuri and said, "Well, he's like a brother to me too. Don't worry, Chan. I promise I'll get Gaara back to you." Hinata smiled and leaned over to pat the girl on the back as she struck a chakra point, catching her as she fell into a light slumber. With a slight smile, Tamari turned to Hinata and put the girl on the couch in Gaara's office, saying, "Thank you, she could have hurt herself." "I smell like Gaara." Naruto was startled out of his daze by Roki. Before turning to face the long, blue-haired beauty, Naruto remarked, "Roki has Gaara's scent." He was secretly hoping that no one else would recognize her when he said, "You can travel with us." Before anyone noticed, he had a few questions for her. When Hinata saw Naruto, she turned around and almost passed out. Fortunately, she managed to push that down, but she stumbled just as she was beginning to walk and fell face first to the ground, trembling a little in shock. She stood up, repressed her blush, and saw Roki beside him. "Roki is similar to me." Hinata's thoughts were validated by Misaki, causing her to look back at Naruto, who gave her one of her favorite smiles and winked. After giving Hinata a subtle wink, Kakashi took the lead and yelled, "Let's go." Sakura followed, and Tamari leapt after them. Naruto and Hinata trailed behind, with Naruto attempting to speak with Hinata privately. When Hinata gave the order for Misaki to follow suit, Roki went to the front of the group. Sakura said, "Who are you?" to Hinata. Hinata stammered. On her behalf, Naruto said, "Guys, this is Tamika Hanoi," to Hinata's relief. "We met while I was on my training trip." Before turning around and continuing on her way, Sakura gave Hinata one last suspicious look. Silently, Naruto said, "Hinata-chan." She returned the whisper, "Hi Naruto-kun." He grinned and reached over to embrace her, lifting her off the ground so they could continue their journey towards Gaara. "Oh man, I'm so happy to see you," he said. In Naruto's embrace, Hinata flushed. "You, Roki? Are you, like me?" she said softly. "You're not scared of me? You don't hate me?" He replied, "Yeah, you never really figured out why everyone hated me." In response, Hinata grinned and said, "I'm not that smart." After putting Hinata down gently so she could run again, Naruto said, "I got something to tell you after we save Gaara." His smile vanished. "All right," she said, "I appreciate you not telling them." Naruto grinned and said, "Hey, you're not off the hook yet. Mistress. There are two Akatsuki in a cave up ahead. Gaara is with them. They both have low chakra, which must be a result of the battle with Gaara." Misaki's thoughts were heard by Hinata. Hinata said, "Naruto-kun, first." Naruto nodded and said, "I know, Roki just told me. They are both low on chakra. It obviously hasn't been long since they fought Gaara. At the moment they are vulnerable. But I don't want you guys getting hurt." Hinata looked down shyly and nodded, adding some information that he might not have known because Roki didn't have the Byakugan. Looking at her, Naruto said, "I could say the same thing. We'll take a detour after you two remove the Akatsuki." Roki gave Naruto a thought. "Come on." Naruto nodded and took Hinata's hand. "We'll take out the Akatsuki. Roki is going to take them on a detour." He swiftly created two shadow clones, one of himself and one of Hinata. After giving Misaki a nod and quietly explaining their strategy, Hinata turned on her Byakugan and started to move in the direction of the Akatsuki members. "Hello again," Hinata said with a radiant smile as she approached Sasori and Deidara, the two Akatsuki members. Sasori had Gaara in his clutches, unconscious. Deidara grinned and said, "Hey, look, it's another little demon, That's not a nice way to speak to a lady," Hinata scowled. Deidara retorted, "You tried to shave my precious hair off last time." Hinata went on in her soft, collected voice, "I was just wondering if it was as smooth as it looked." Deidara snarled, "I'll see how you look when you're bold." But before he could leap at Hinata, something landed hard on him. Naruto was sitting on Deidara, grinning broadly, and said, Now, I quite like Hinata-chan's hair as it is, thank you." Sasori jumped back, avoiding the demon containers, saying, "Another one. We're too weak to take on two of them at once." With a loud laugh, Naruto asked Hinata, "Did he just call himself weak?" Hinata replied, "I think he did, Naruto. What are we going to do about that?" Naruto grinned and said, "Let's show him how weak he already is." "Let's do just that." Hinata nodded, "But I get Deidara-chan. I'm jealous of her hair. I didn't get to chop it off last time." "I'm not a girl," yelled Deidara. Acting as though he hadn't said anything, Naruto said. Nah, I like your hair better. He then got off of Deidara to allow Hinata to attack him and charge Sasori. I'll take on this guy then. Avoiding every clay bird hurled at her, Hinata charged Deidara. She grinned because she had previously battled Deidara and knew she needed to avoid the clay because it could explode at any moment. As he continued to toss clay creatures, she rapidly gathered her chakra. Chakra pulse. She cried, pushing out a small amount of chakra from each of her chakra points and flinging the clay in all directions. She was aware that she could only defeat Deidara in close quarters. All she had to do was approach closely enough. It would take some time, but she could reach Deidara. This is going to hurt, she sighed and sprinted at full speed in Deidara's direction. As she ran toward Deidara, the clay continued to blow up close to her, but she made a last-minute move to prevent it from reaching a deadly position. She saw something wrong with Deidara and quickly activated her Byakugan, running in for a Jiyuken palm to his stomach. She tried to retreat before her Jiyuken palm could strike him, but she was unable to stop the momentum, and when her palm struck the Deidara, it exploded, sending Hinata hurt and scratched to the cave wall and crashing onto the rocky floor. With a frustrated sigh, she ignored the pain in her joints and stood up again. Using her Byakugan, she searched the area for the location where the real Deidara had fled to. Her eyes widened as she saw him making his way to the scene where Gaara was still unconscious and Naruto was fighting Sasori. In an attempt to reach Deidara before he could take action, Hinata ran. Fortunately, she outpaced him and kicked him in the side, sending him flying into a tree close to where Sasori was fighting. She saw that Deidara had already sent out clay towards Naruto just as she was about to dash back over to him. She shouted, "Naruto, whatever you do, stay away from the clay animals that are coming your way," since she couldn't have reached him in time. Hinata's yelling obviously startled Naruto, who looked up. Then he turned back to Sasori and saw the clay coming toward him. He nodded to himself and made 6 clones to look after him. Given that Sasori had 2 puppets in front of him, he was already panting. He was fortunate, though, because the Kyuubi protected him from the poison the puppets were hurling at him. He charged once more, knowing that he needed to strike these puppets in the joints to render them inoperable because he had already vanquished a few of them. Pulling a kunai from his holder, he slashed it across his elbow joint while ducking beneath the spears the puppets were hurling at him. In order to avoid the second puppet's axe, he then had to leap into the air. However, he was now in the air and descending to the puppet's waiting area. He shouted, "Shadow Clone Jutsu!" and 10 shadow clones were formed, all of which began to form a Rasengan. They all yelled, "Rasengan Barrage!" as they pushed Rasengans into the puppets and twisted in the air to avoid the puppets' moves. The Rasengans caused a huge explosion, which threw the real Naruto back and caused the clones to vanish in a cloud of smoke. He got back up with some effort and grinned at the ineffectual puppets on the ground. A huge explosion erupted from the trees behind him, and he saw Hinata flying in his direction. He sprang forward, leaping at her and embracing her. He inquired, "Are you all right?" With a slight wince, she said, "Yeah, I'm fine." She sighed as Naruto helped her stand again and stretched all of her sore joints. "We're coming." The group heard the explosions. Naruto looked at Hinata after Masaki warned, and both of them nodded, confirming that they had heard the news. They then vanished into the trees as soon as the group arrived on the battlefield. Clone Hinata. Tamika laughed as Kakashi commanded, "Okay, guys. Sakura Tamari and I will take the red head. You other 2 will take the girl." "Wait," Naruto replied, "me and Tamika will take on Sasori. He works with poison. I can smell it on him. The poison won't affect me and Tamika as a venom specialist." Clone Naruto told the truth. "Yes." Tamika concurred. "That would be a good idea." After giving Tamika a suspicious glance, Kakashi simply nodded and rushed in Deidara's direction, who was furious. He shouted, "I'm not a girl," as the 4 vanished farther into the forest. The real Naruto and Hinata then leapt out of the trees they were hiding in, while the Koth clones vanished. "Okay, let's do this." Naruto grinned. Hinata activated her Byakugan once more and asked, "Do you think they will be okay?" "Don't worry. They'll be fine. Kakashi Sensei will make sure everyone comes out in one piece," Naruto said with a simple smile. "The sooner we defeat this guy, the quicker we'll be able to find out," Hinata said, nodding before turning back to Sasori. Naruto and Hinata both charged Sasori, trying to hit him while avoiding his blows. Hinata felt nothing but a slight twitch in the palm of her hand when she finally managed to get a Jiyuken to the side of his arm. She jumped back quickly, called for Naruto to follow suit, and then explained, "My Jiyuken does nothing to him." She pulled out a splinter from her arm and looked at it curiously before realizing, He's made of wood. Her eyes widened. What? Naruto asked, turning to face Sasori with a perplexed expression. Sasori laughed. I guess you figured it out then. Yes. I made myself into a puppet. Naruto shuddered. That's creepy. Hinata simply nodded in agreement as she considered how to respond to this new information. Hinata called, Masaki. Help us out here. Masaki jumped up to Hinata and barked. Naruto, do you know any fire jutsu? Hinata asked out loud. He's made of wood, right? No, Naruto said, shaking his head. But, Roki, you know fire jutsu, right? His eyes widened. Indeed. I have a lot of fire jutsu. Roki joined the group and barked. Naruto turned to face Sasori and said, Okay. Roki, we need to set this guy on fire. As Roki began to use his Just You, a demonic red chakra covered his body. He concentrated a ball of red chakra in his mouth and opened it, growing 2 more tails. He was set on fire as they desired when the sphere suddenly exploded out of his mouth into a huge beam of fire that was traveling towards Sasori. Naruto grinned at his friend and said, Good job, Roki. Now to finish this off. He charged at Sasori, making an Odama Rasengan in his hands before thrusting it into Sasori's chest, which exploded, sending burning wood fragments flying in all directions. Naruto sighed as he made his way back to the waiting Hinata, Masaki, and Roki. As the 4 of them ran in the direction of where they last saw Deidara, Hinata remarked, Good job. Now let's see how the others are going and find Gaara. They were a little taken aback when they arrived at the group and discovered that Sakura was using medical Just You on an unconscious Gaara. Deidara was nowhere to be seen, and the other members of the group were puffing a little, but not nearly as badly as Hinata and Naruto. Did you get him? Naruto inquired, taken aback by the group's lack of scabbard. Kakashi pointed at Hinata, a little wary, and explained, No, we could barely fight him before he ran. Said something about 3 demons. After turning to face him, Naruto said, Don't worry, she's fine. Trust me. Sakura squinted at Hinata and said, Why are you here, Tamika? You know how to fight, but you're not wearing a headband or anything. Hinata turned to Sakura and said, Gaara has been like a brother to me while I've been through some tough times recently. When I heard he had been taken by Akatsuki, I had to come as fast as I could to help him. Hinata's expression was innocent. Sakura snarled, That doesn't explain how you know how to fight. She doesn't need to answer to you. Naruto scowled at Sakura. Why are you so grumpy these days, Naruto? Geez, first when I wanted to know about Hinata and now this, Sakura screamed. Hinata's eyes grew wide before shifting to Naruto. What precisely transpired during my absence? You're just being so nosy. There are some things you just don't need to know, Naruto said, continuing to glare at the pink-haired Kunoichi. Kakashi chose to stop them before it was too late, but he was curiously observing the entire event. When everyone turned to face the unconscious Cage, he began to twitch until he opened his eyes, despite his deception that, Stop fighting guys, Gaara's waking up. He sat down quickly and peered around inquisitively. Gaara. You're okay. Thank God. Hinata exclaimed as her face brightened, and Temari laughed at her antics as she embraced the boy. Gaara grinned and gave the girl a hug in return. Imouto? What are you doing here? Oh, it was the Akatsuki, wasn't it? Thank you for saving me, Imouto. Jumping back a few paces, Hinata released him and said, Don't give me all the credit, Temari. Chan, Naruto-kun, and his team did all the work. Naruto? He asked, scanning the area for the ninja. Hey Gaara. Naruto's eyes met the redhead's, and he grinned broadly. Gaara turned to Hinata and said, Kun. Is there something I don't know? With a smile. It's nice to see you again. Well, your girlfriend's freaking out back home. You have no idea how close it came to her coming out here alone, Hinata said, flushed at least 4 shades. Thank you for persuading her to stay. I couldn't take it if she was hurt out here, Gaara said softly, turning to Hinata. I know, said Hinata with a soft smile. That's why I might have knocked her out. You knocked her out? If you hurt her, he glared. Hinata kept grinning broadly at her brother, saying, Don't worry, I was gentle, I just hit a nerve on her neck, she's fine. Everyone, I say we meet for a feast tonight. Okay. This is a thank you for saving my life. This goes for you too, Imouto. And you better show up this time. He turned back to Team 7 and sighed gratefully. Hinata nodded. I can't. I'm leaving about now. And you know how I don't like attention. I'm not heading in the direction of Suna anyway. You know I can't stay here for too long. Now that I know that you are okay, I can leave. All right, Gaara sighed, but stay in touch this time. She smiled and said, you know that's not going to happen. I can't let anyone know where I am. As everyone gathered around Gaara, Sakura was still tending to his wounds. Naruto announced, I need to talk to Tamika in private for a minute before she leaves, we'll be back. With a nod, Hinata leapt to her feet and trailed Naruto into the woods. The words, Hinata-chan, made Naruto flush. He didn't know how, but he had to tell her before she left again. Hinata looked up at him with some curiosity and asked, yeah, Naruto-kun? When he had an idea, Naruto grinned. Reaching for her, he drew her into his arms and leaned down to whisper, love you too, into her ear before kissing her. Despite her shock, Hinata returned the kiss. Hinata reached up and put her hands around Naruto's neck, while he wrapped his arms around her small waist. Naruto pressed his forehead against hers and gently broke the kiss. I don't want you to go. I want you to stay with me. I know it's selfish, but I want to be with you. Hinata was crying uncontrollably. Hinata sobbed into his chest, but I can't. I'm not coming back, I'm a missing nin, remember? After giving her a gentle pat on the head, Naruto said, then I'm coming with you. Hinata's chest ceased to weep. In an attempt to persuade him that he was making a mistake, she exclaimed in shock, but you have a home. You have friends. You can find someone better than me, I'm not going to let you make this mistake. You had a home too. You still have friends in Konoha, and you left, now you're fine. Why can't I leave too? He pleaded. You just can't. What about being Hokage? You can't give up your dream for me. My life is over in Konoha, you still have yours. You can grow up surrounded by your friends, your precious people, and you can become Hokage. Don't give it all up for me. She was crying, I'm not worth it. He pulled her away from his chest so he could look her in the eyes and said, but you are worth it, you're worth all of this, to me. You're worth the world. Hinata-chan, I love you, and now that I've found you, I'm not letting you go. He looked down at her in shock. Hinata thought she was about to pass out. I love you too. But Naruto, you shouldn't do this. The life of a missing nin isn't what you want, she said, her face flushed from all the blood rushing up there. I want to be with you, wherever you are, and if that means I have to be a missing nin, then so be it, Naruto continued with determination. I have never had anyone care about me that much. Naruto-kun, I can't let you come with me. You belong in Konoha where you can protect all your precious people, Hinata sobbed, pressing her face against his toned chest. Naruto was crying now, holding Hinata against him and embracing her. You are my most precious person, Hinata. I don't know what I'd do without you. The last few months without you have been hard. You don't know how much I want to go over to the Hyuga clan and kick their asses. I don't know what I'll do if I don't see you again. Okay. You got my note about Sasuke, right? Hinata said, taking a deep, trembling breath. With a nod from Naruto, she went on, he'll be there in 2 weeks. I will meet you there. In that time I really want you to think about your decision. Tell me in 2 weeks what you decide. I'll miss you. She retreated a few steps, getting ready to leave. Love you. She turned to face Naruto once more after being grabbed by the wrist before she could flee. In order to remove the necklace that Tsunade had given him, Naruto wrapped his other hand around his neck. He put the necklace around her neck and said, here. Something to remember me by. A promise that I'll see you again. Leaning down, he gently caressed her lips once more and said, I'll miss you too. Be safe. In order to get closer to Hinata and intensify the kiss, Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist once more. As Naruto licked the underside of her lip in request of entry, Hinata's hands moved to his head and began rubbing his hair with her fingers. He briefly withdrew just as she was ready to accept his tongue. He interrupted Roki just long enough to yell, Roki, if anyone tries to interrupt, kill them. Then he turned back to Hinata and kissed her once more. This time, she parted her lips to let him in. His tongue wandered around her mouth, causing her to dance with his as she moaned in gratitude. Despite their heavy breathing, they refused to let go of each other and finally broke the kiss. Hinata let out an unhappy sigh and said, 2 weeks. With his chin resting on her head, Naruto nodded and said, don't worry, I'll be there. I'll miss you, love you. She tightened her hold a little and laughed sarcastically, saying, I can't believe that today has become my happiest and the saddest day of my life. She sighed when he nodded in agreement. Love you too, so much. See you soon. She grudgingly stepped out of his embrace and vanished into the forest after giving him one final tender kiss. Demon couple. After tidying up a bit, Naruto returned to the other members of the group, making it appear as though he had not been crying. What the hell took you so long? Sakura barked. Your pet nearly ripped my head off when I went looking for you. Naruto raised an eyebrow at his furry friend and had to suppress a laugh. Roki reminded me that you said to kill them. After giving it some thought, Naruto said, good job. I'm glad nobody interrupted. You probably did something to piss him off. He doesn't like being called a pet either. Naruto turned back to Sakura and said, I really don't think he likes you. He then fought back a smile before approaching the dubious Kakashi. When Naruto arrived, he said, what's going on, Naruto? Are you okay? After saying, no, but I will be in 2 weeks. The discussion came to an end, leaving Kakashi with a ton of unanswered questions. Then Sakura inquired, where's Tamika? Naruto let out a sorrowful sigh, she left already. Gaara simply arched an eyebrow in question of Naruto's thoughts. As the five sprinted back towards Suna, Kakashi remarked, come on, guys, we better get back to Suna. Demon couple. Gaara. Kun. Matsuri's cry reverberated across the desert as the retrieval team arrived at Suna's gates. Looking up, Gaara prepared for impact as Matsuri swung at him, latching onto his torso and pressing her face against his chest while shedding tears. You don't know how much you scared me. I was going to come after you, she cried, holding him closer. Don't do that to me ever again. Please don't worry about me, Gaara said, giving her hair a loving pat. Don't worry, I was taken care of. The team from Konoha and Imouto saved me. Matsuri lifted her face from his chest and looked up into his eyes, pleading, how can I not worry about you? I love you, and I can't help but worry. Just promise it won't happen again, that no one will take you away from me. Gaara put one hand on each of her cheeks and used his thumbs to gently wipe away her tears. I promise. We'll stay together, and I'll never leave you, okay? He said. She mumbled, thank you, breaking the kiss as she put her arms around his neck and pressed her lips to his. When the group realized they were being ignored, Tamari took charge and said, come on, I'll take you to your hotel where you can change. She gave the couple a final little smile before escorting them away. Gaara, Naruto, Sakura, Kakashi, Tamari, Kankuro, and Matsuri were among the few people in the enormous restaurant where everyone was seated. Kakashi felt a little anxious. Since Naruto had been acting oddly, he chose to sit next to him and inquire about his thoughts. The question made Naruto sigh, and he said, trust me, a lot is on my mind at the moment. Kakashi asked, you want to talk about it? Not really. Kakashi grinned at Naruto's startled look and said, it has something to do with Tamika, doesn't it? Or should I call her Hinata? How did you know? Kakashi laughed. She's in the bingo book. There aren't many people that walk around with giant wolves named Masaki, now are there? Sighing, Naruto said, yeah, it's about her. Well, what's on your mind? Sighing, Kakashi. What would you do if you had the choice to stay in Konoha, but be away from the one you love, or leave Konoha and be with her? Kakashi reflected on it. Well, you need to consider how much you love her, how far you are willing to go for her, and how much she loves you. If Hinata asked you to make the choice, she obviously doesn't care for you enough. He sighed. No, that isn't it. She was trying to get me to stay. She reckons the life of a missing nin isn't what I want. She wants me to stay in Konoha and become Hokage. But she can't come back with me. I wanted to go with her, but she told me I have 2 weeks, she'll be there when we fight Sasuke, and she said I need to think about it, so I can come up with a decision. Kakashi gave a thoughtful nod. Well, I think you should think about each scenario. Okay, Naruto. What would you do if you were left in Konoha? You had finally become the 6th Hokage and everyone in Konoha acknowledges your skills. Your dream finally came true. But Hinata wasn't by your side. You couldn't see her. She was pretty much dead to you. Would you enjoy it? Naruto raised his face in contemplation. Sure, I would finally have achieved my dream, but it wouldn't feel right. I think I'd still feel alone. I'm not sure that is what I want. I want to become Hokage so I can protect my precious people, but if my most precious person isn't with me, is practically dead to me, I wouldn't be able to take it. Kakashi chuckled at Naruto. Well, then, what if you were a missing nin? You had many bounty hunters after you, and don't forget the Akatsuki. You wander around cities, sleeping wherever you can find. You no longer live in Konoha. You no longer thrive to protect your home, but you had the one you love by your side every step of the way. I think, man, this is so confusing. I think I would be okay. I'd have to worry about numerous threats and people after me, and I wouldn't have a home, but Hinata would be with me and I wouldn't be alone. She'd help me fight the Akatsuki, run from our enemies and stuff. But I don't know if I can live on the run like that. She'd be in danger all the time. Arg. She already is in danger all the time. And all have no alliances with other cities, friends all but forgotten. Kakashi. Sensei, why does it have to be so hard? Naruto screamed. Kakashi looked at his pupil and said, I can't help you with this. This is your decision and your decision alone. You need to come up with an answer. And you will have to live with the consequences. Just think about it. Ask for advice, but not the answer from others. No. One will be in the same situation as you and all would act differently if in so. You need to find out what you would do, not what someone else would do. Think about every different circumstance, and how you would react to each one. Only then you will have an answer. Naruto let out a sigh and returned his attention to his meal. He ate in silence while reflecting on everything Kakashi had said, becoming increasingly perplexed with each idea. With a sigh, he got up and started to head to the hotel when he noticed some fortune cookies in a basket. He walked up and broke a fortune cookie in half before reading the note inside, deciding that it might help him with his serious issue. You will have to make some difficult choices, but the real solution will be in front of you. Your answer will appear when you combine all of the options you have chosen. Completely and utterly perplexed by the writing on the cookie, Naruto could only raise an eyebrow. Sighing at the realization that the cookie was completely pointless, he tucked the paper into his pocket and hurried to his hotel room in search of a restful night's sleep. Demon couple. Naruto ran up to the couple, who were waiting to be served in a restaurant booth at the time, and yelled, Gaara, Matsuri, I need your help. We'll be happy to help. Matsuri smiled happily and enthusiastically. With a knowing smirk, Gaara inquired, what's on your mind? Does it have something to do with a certain missing nin? Why does everyone know that? Is it that obvious? Naruto asked, his eyes widening. Matsuri gave a comforting smile and said, it's not obvious, but if you know all the details, it's easy to put together. With a slight smile on his face, Naruto nodded and began to explain everything. He began by discussing Hinata's confession, followed by his feelings for her and everything that transpired following his return from his 3-year training trip, and finally, the choice he must make. When Naruto had completed his story, Matsuri crooned, ah, isn't that romantic? Desperately, Naruto protested, it's not romantic, I'm confused and I need help. Gaara glanced at Naruto. We can't decide for you, Naruto. And Hinata won't mind whichever path you choose. Don't change your decision because of the thoughts of others. Just think what you want, not about us. Ignore others' feelings when you choose what you will. Choose what you think is best for you. Gaara offered guidance. Sighing, yeah, Kakashi. Sensei said something similar. But it's not helping. I have 2 weeks to come up with a decision, and I'm completely lost. Don't worry Uzumaki-san. You will have an answer soon enough, Matsuri said with a radiant smile. Naruto. We're leaving, yelled Sakura, who appeared quite irate, from the restaurant door. Naruto sighed and said goodbye to his brother and new friend before vanishing out the door. Well, I'm out of here. 3 days. It took that long to return to Konoha. While Naruto was attempting to focus, Sakura was complaining the entire time. He considered what Kakashi had said, but he had no idea what to do. Sakura was growing irritated. Naruto kept to himself. It also irritated her. He refused to even look her in the eye and was not responding to any of her inquiries. At one point during their journey home, she screamed at him to get his attention, but he simply yelled back, telling her to stop talking and that he had a lot on his mind. Which piqued her interest, but she remained silent, muttering to herself and fuming. When Sakura entered the gates of Konoha, she was overjoyed to be at home and to be free of the awkwardness. When Naruto and Kakashi offered to report to Tsunade without her, things only got better. She simply went home to take a shower, unwind, and watch television. Without Sakura, Kakashi and Naruto dashed to the Hokage's office. She needed to rest, so Kakashi offered to report to Tsunade without her. He really needed to discuss Hinata with Tsunade, so that was his excuse. Since Kakashi hadn't actually spoken to the girl during their journey, Naruto would take care of that. Nevertheless, they had to discuss her with Tsunade. Kakashi bowed respectfully and turned to face Naruto, who was not really aware of his surroundings. Tsunade. Sama, he said. Tsunade was staring at Naruto strangely. He was incredibly silent and hadn't spoken since entering her office. Naruto? She inquired, her voice full of bewilderment. With a slight smile, he looked up as though he had finally realized where he was and said, oh, hey Ba-chan. With a glance at Kakashi, Tsunade posed the silent query. He's been like this for a while. I'll let him explain it, sighed Kakashi. After exhaling, Naruto said, okay, I'm fine. I just need to think. Kakashi explained, prodding Naruto with his elbow to go on. Hinata was in Suna. Yeah, she was there, but only me, Kakashi, and probably the Sabato siblings, Gaara, Tamari and Kankuro, knew it was her. She came to get Gaara back from the Akatsuki, and was shocked when she saw us there. We all left after Roki found Gaara's scent and followed it, Naruto clarified. Then Kakashi said accusingly, after that I sensed a small usage of chakra, and looked back to see two shadow clones behind me where Hinata and Naruto were supposed to be. Ah, you noticed that Well, Hinata and I went after them by ourselves while you guys took a detour, Naruto said with a sheepish smile. Angrily, Tsunade screamed, you did what? They are after you too, Baka. And her. What do you think you were doing going after them alone? We were fine. Hinata wouldn't be able to use all her power without a chance of being recognized, so we attacked them. Naruto appeared unconcerned that her murderous intent was directed at him. We were doing well, when Hinata informed me that the rest of the group was coming, so we jumped into the trees, waiting to come out when no one noticed. Then we separated. Kakashi kept going, Naruto and Hinata stayed to take on Sasori, and Tamari, Sakura and I went to go after Deidara. Well, said Tsunade, her eyes wide with anticipation, did you get them? Deidara escaped before we could even battle, but Naruto and Hinata killed Sasori. Kakashi relayed. As they left her office, Tsunade grinned and said, thank you for your report, you may leave now. No, there's one more thing you should know. Kakashi responded quickly, Naruto, you really need to tell her of your decision. Decision? What decision? Tsunade asked Naruto, raising an eyebrow. Murmured, well, before we left, I talked to Hinata privately. And I tried to talk her into coming home, but she wouldn't. Then I offered to go with her, which she also said no, she's given me 2 weeks until I see her, to come up with a decision on whether to go with her, or stay here, he quickly summarized. Incredulously, Tsunade questioned, why would you want to go with her? Because I maybe, sort of, a little bit, could have fallen in love with her, Naruto said, blushing slightly. Well, what do you know? I can't believe you like her. She's been in love with you for years, and you were so dense. Someone would have to spell it out for you to get you to understand. Tsunade began, but Kakashi cut her off as her eyes widened and a broad smile appeared on her face. That still wouldn't work, he probably couldn't spell, he laughed. When he heard Tsunade's voice, Naruto got up and was about to leave after he sighed, fine. If you're going to sit here offending me, I think I'll leave. With a gentle nod, Naruto vanished out the door. Just tell me when you come to a decision. I need to know. Okay, she said. Naruto lay on his back, breathing heavily, and gazed up at the sky with a sigh. He knew that his mind had been so consumed with thoughts of Hinata that he had spent the entire day training to clear it. Naruto had made the decision to make sure he was too busy to worry about it during the day if it was going to keep him up at night. With a sigh, he sat up and grasped his head. He was thinking about her once more. However, he was powerless to stop himself. Angry at himself and his stupid, incessantly thinking brain, he leapt to his feet and began to walk home. His next chance to see her was in 3 days. 3 days, and he was at a loss for what to do. Naruto was becoming extremely anxious and was making every effort to come up with a solution, but he was failing. He stayed up late and frequently fell asleep during social interactions. Never in his life had he thought so much. Hinata doesn't want me to be a missing nin, and I don't want to leave Konoha. But I want to be with her since she won't be returning. He recalled the fortune cookie. You will have to make some difficult choices, but the real solution will be right in front of you. Your answer will appear when you combine all of the options you have chosen. Put all of the paths together, mix together. Naruto's eyes widened as he suddenly realized something. He cried out in realization, I know what my decision is, and rushed directly to the Hokage's office to ask her to help him reveal it. When Tsunade heard Naruto's choice, she let out a sigh. She gave a small smile. If he had wanted to, she would have allowed him to leave the village. Okay, get your team, it's time to leave for your trip. I also need to write up an extra mission for you, which starts as soon as you either rescue Sasuke, or he escapes. Who do you choose to be on your team for this mission? The rest of Team 7. Then we will be together, even if it is only for a little while, Naruto said, glancing up at Tsunade. Okay, Tsunade said with a sorrowful smile. I'll give them the mission details and you need to prepare for your journey. Before leaving, Naruto gave her one final glance and asked, can you not tell them of my decision until they get back? Yes, now get packing. As Team 7 stood outside the village gates early the following morning, Kakashi said in an authoritative voice, okay, come on. Let's get Sasuke back. Nobody questioned Naruto's rather bulky luggage, as though he were staying for a year instead of a few days. However, the team didn't take note of it and simply assumed that the pack he had was loaded with ramen, since he had actually done it before. Naruto and Sakura simultaneously exclaimed, "Hi," before scurrying off in the direction where Sasuke was supposed to be in 2 days. After 2 days of travel, Sakura, Kakashi, and Naruto were almost at their destination. They all three remained silent, primarily speculating about what would happen if they were able to reunite with Sasuke. However, Naruto was unable to stop thinking about Akunoichi with white eyes. He had been thinking about her non-stop for a week now, so it wasn't shocking. Naruto detected 2 chakra signatures in front of him, and his eyes glistened. He recognized who the signatures belonged to right away. He grinned at the idea of Misaki standing obediently beside her mistress, and one of the signatures was clearly demonic. Before running off in the direction of Hinata's chakra signature, Naruto grinned broadly and whispered, "She's here," loud enough for Sakura and Kakashi to stare at him in confusion. Hinata had no idea what had hit her. She was standing in the middle of a wooded area when something suddenly slammed into her, sending her flying to the ground and landing on top of the object. For a half-second, she saw cerulean eyes looking up before lips touched hers. Knowing who those eyes belonged to, Hinata smiled into the kiss. She could also tell it was Naruto because of the way he kissed her. His lips were warm and firm, but there was a gentleness to them. "Hello to you too. I missed you." Hinata grinned up at him after breaking the kiss, but then she sensed 2 more people in the training field. When Naruto and Hinata turned around, Sakura and Kakashi were there, their eyes bulging and their mouths wide open. Hinata simply blushed as Naruto chuckled at their facial expressions. Naruto and Hinata hurriedly stood up, and the two jolted out of their stunned state. Sakura wasn't feeling particularly upbeat, but Kakashi grinned. "Who the hell are you?" she asked Hinata, her face instantly taking on a suspicious expression. Sakura's rage caused Hinata to blink a few times before she felt warm arms encircle her waist. She turned back to Sakura after grinning at Naruto and looking up, saying, "Hinata. But you might have remembered me as Tamika." Sakura sighed. You're a damn traitor. Who the hell do you think you were coming here? This has nothing to do with you. And Naruto, what do you think you were doing with her? If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be able to find Sasuke right now. I'm the one who told him to come here because that's where his brother was going to show up." Hinata quietly and calmly said, "I may be a missing nin, but I'm still loyal to Konoha and I'm not a traitor." Sakura's outburst left Hinata motionless, but she gave her a firm look. She grumbled, "I don't believe you. The whole reason you left Konoha was because you're a traitor. It's not like we cared anyway. You're not strong. You've always been weak, and no. One wants you back anyway." That infuriated Hinata, but then she heard a growl of defiance coming from deep within Naruto's chest. Roki was also staring down at Sakura with his teeth bared. "You know what, Sakura?" Hinata looked up at her with determination in her gaze. "You can call me weak as much as you want. I don't care. I've been told that for my whole life, that I was weak, useless. But now I know that I'm strong. And that's all that matters. And you want to know why I left Konoha? I left because my family was planning to kill me. You see, I have been burdened my whole life with something I didn't even know I had until I was 13. And then they were going to relieve me of my burden, which would have killed me, and given it to my sister. I'm not going to let Hanabi live through what I have. So don't make accusations when you don't know what's going on." Sakura simply rolled her eyes and opened her mouth to say something, but Kakashi cut her off. "He's coming. Hide and conceal your chakra. I don't want him to see you yet. If he sees you, he'll know it's a trap and leave. So stay hidden." Hinata nodded to herself and pulled herself away from Naruto's embrace. In order to comply, Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, and Roki hid far enough into the trees to be visible but not close enough to draw attention. Sasuke appeared at that moment, rushing to Hinata and snatching her by the collar before yelling, "Where's Itachi?" Misaki snarled at him right away for threatening her mistress, but Hinata intervened, saying, "Misaki, don't fight." Misaki stepped back and turned to face Sasuke, saying, "I'm not going to fight you. There's no need for violence, Sasuke. What are you doing here? I don't want to see you again. You better not be following me," Sasuke said, glaring but letting her go. Hinata murmured, "I'm not one of your fangirls. So why would I possibly be following you? I really don't care what you do." "Then why are you helping me find Itachi?" Hinata gave a well-considered explanation, saying, "Because the Akatsuki are kind of after me. And it would be a lot easier if he was out of the picture." "Why would Akatsuki want you? You're not a Jinchuriki, wait, are you?" Sasuke speculated. Behind closed doors, Hinata hoped Sakura hadn't heard the line, "Those reasons are none of your business." I never would have guessed. You are a Jinchuriki. I guess you would be a worthy opponent for one day. Hinata sighed and moved a few paces away from Sasuke's icy gaze. Who said I'd want to fight you? I try to avoid violence if possible. Coming from the girl who ran away from Konoha. You're a missing nin now. Lots of people will want to kill you. Sasuke stated bluntly. Sighing, and I'll deal with that as it comes. Even though I left my home, doesn't mean I'm not still loyal. When she used the word loyal, Sasuke's eyes widened and he asked, what have you planned? He knew something wasn't right. Itachi isn't coming, is he? He asked, squinting his eyes as he took a few menacing steps forward. Hinata continued to move away from him, saying, well, about that. Team 7 made the decision to arrive at that point. The four assumed their positions, with Naruto facing Sasuke and standing squarely in front of Hinata in a somewhat protective manner. Nice to see you again, Teme. He shouted at Hinata, Dobi? You brought the Dobi here? Are you an idiot? Nah. You had to insult me. Couldn't we just talk this out casually? Hinata murmured. I'm not going back to Konoha, scowled Sasuke. All right, if you give me a good explanation for your decision, I might give it some thought, Naruto said, turning to face Sasuke. You know why I can't come back. I need to be stronger. I need to defeat my brother. Only after I defeat him, I will return, Sasuke said angrily as he turned to face the group. Look, Sasuke, Hinata began in her soft, soothing voice, you should come back with us to Konoha. You can get stronger there, and if you stay with us, Itachi will come. Hinata had moved a few paces forward to stand beside Naruto. Sakura attacked Hinata. Sasuke is not going anywhere near you. You're just a demon. No one wants to be with you. Thank God Akatsuki is after all you demons. We don't want you, so it'd be better off when you die, she screamed. Everyone was stunned, and Hinata was on the verge of passing out from the tears in her eyes. Everyone simply gazed at Sakura, occasionally glancing at the horrified Hinata. I want to be with her, so why don't you just shut up? You have no idea what you're talking about, Naruto growled, declaring, that's a lie. With a moment of shock, she turned to face Naruto and said, you want to be with her? She's a damn Jinchuriki? Naruto started to say, well so am, but a tiny, gentle hand covered his mouth. He turned to face the hand's owner, who was shaking her head. Don't, Hinata said softly, but he could hear her and gave her a small nod before she removed her hand from his mouth and faced Sakura once more. Sakura. Don't talk about stuff you know nothing about. Hinata isn't evil, damn it. She's probably the nicest person you'll ever meet. She's probably faking it. Don't you get it, Naruto? She's using you, can't you see it? Sakura screamed. Sasuke was perplexed by the entire situation. Was he forgotten? That's what he believed until he heard Hinata's soft voice say, Sasuke-san, which made him admire her. I'm willing to give you a chance. You can travel with me in Misaki. We aren't going back to Konoha, and we're getting stronger by the people we pass. Soon enough, Itachi will come after me. You will have your fight then. And then you can do what you want. Okay, Hinata said softly. Before Sakura could interrupt, Kakashi covered her mouth with his hand while keeping a close eye on Sasuke. Despite his slight restlessness, Sasuke looked up at her and said, okay. There's nothing else Orochimaru can teach me anyway, I'll give this a chance. I need to talk to Hinata-chan for a moment. Naruto turned to face Sasuke and smiled slightly. I've made a decision. But we need to talk about it privately. Hinata nodded, and the two of them backed off further into the forest. Hinata looked up at Naruto with sparkling eyes and said softly, so you have made your decision? With a tender smile and a sweet kiss on her forehead, he said, yes. Hinata nestled her chin against his chest and gazed up at Naruto, saying, well, I'm glad I can finally show him love after all this time. As she softly tousled her hair, Naruto said, I'm coming with you. Really? Why? Hinata asked, raising an eyebrow as she took in the information. He gave her a grin. Because I love you, silly. I've already talked to Ba-chan about this, and I get a year-long mission to train, in which I'll be with you. Then after the year is done, I'm going to come back to Konoha. And I'm kind of hoping you'll come back with me. We can take on the Hyuga clan together. He glanced over to Hinata with excitement. I'm not so sure that's a good idea, hinted Hinata, unsure. Well, I got a year to convince you, he said with confidence as he pecked her on the nose. And you won't become a missing nin? She asked hopefully, grinning. He turned to face her thoughtfully and said, nope, I'm still a ninja of Konoha, just on a training mission which is to keep watch over a certain missing nin. With a little squeak of delight, Hinata put her arms around him and whispered her gratitude into his chest. With the scowling Sakura at his side, Kakashi abruptly emerged and said, "Come on Naruto, it's time to head back to Konoha." Naruto defiantly looked up at the group and said, "I'm not going with you." "Huh? Why not?" exclaimed Sakura. Naruto smiles as he looks down at the girl in his arms and says, "Talk to the Hokage. She'll explain everything. I've got a solo mission, and it starts now." Kakashi asked Naruto, "What is this mission, exactly?" as he looked curiously between Naruto and Hinata, assuming she was involved. Kakashi roughly translated Naruto's statement, I d.tell.u.but.sakura.would.blow.up.in.my. Face.in. I don't feel like arguing with her, as it's confidential. Kakashi sighed as the two departed, saying, "Okay. Let's go Sakura. We can talk to Tsunade about Naruto's mission later, okay?" Standing beside the couple, Sasuke questioned, "So you're traveling with us?" "Yep," Naruto said with a broad smile. Sasuke turned to Hinata and asked, "Well, where are we heading first? Anywhere in particular?" Hinata paused for a moment. "Well, I hadn't decided anything, so you guys can choose where we go next. As long as we're not going to Kumo, because they're after my eyes. Oh, and preferably not near Oto either, since Orochimaru is probably still after you, Sasuke," she said with consideration. When Naruto realized, he exclaimed, I know, let's go to Spring Country. I want to see Princess Yukie again." "You know the Princess of Spring Country?" Hinata asked, casting Naruto a curious glance. "Yeah. We saved her life ages ago. Well, it's fine with me. Which way to Spring Country?" said Sasuke, nodding. Taken from her back pocket, Hinata said, "Well, we go north, east from here, and we should get there in 4 days if we walk." The three were not in a hurry and did not run. They were simply wandering. There was no mission or anything. Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata were right behind Misaki and Roki as they navigated out front of the group. As the men walked on, Hinata stood between them, holding Naruto's hand tightly. "What's it been like with Orochimaru training you, Sasuke?" Hinata inquired naively. "Well, every day I'd meet up with him at his training grounds. He'd show me a jutsu which I'd have to copy with my Sharingan, then practice that jutsu for the duration of the day," he spoke casually. "What about you? What's it like training with Jiraiya?" Hinata asked Naruto after then. "Well, he was an A-class pervert. He'd start by showing me a jutsu, giving me a brief description on how to do it and leave me to figure the rest out while he'd go peeping at girls in the hot spring." Naruto exclaimed, "It was really frustrating, but I learned a lot in the end." He grinned at Hinata and gave her a slight squeeze on the hand before asking, "What about you? What have you been doing in 3 years?" She exhaled deeply, "Traveling. I'd travel around countries and towns, learning some jutsu from the people who were nice enough to teach it to me, but that was very few. So I'd train by myself, creating my own new jutsu out in the forest. It was awful lonely, but it got better when I got Misaki," she continued. As night fell, everyone made the decision to spend the night in a clearing. Sasuke gathered wood, Hinata went out to catch some fish to cook, and Naruto set up the tents. As they sat around the fire eating the fish Hinata had prepared, Hinata said, "Hey Naruto-kun. What's going on with Sakura?" She was so, Hinata fell asleep, trying to think of a word to describe her, but Naruto gave her one. "Bitchy?" He smiled and tried. Hinata looked at him with a question in his eyes and said, "Yeah." With a loud sigh, Naruto put an arm around her and said, "I don't know. I really think she's lost it. I'm not sure, she's been like that ever since I got back from my training." Everybody turned to Sasuke when he attempted to say, "She might be jealous." "Well, you know how you always fawned over her, Naruto? Now that you've finally come to your senses and got over her, she's angry." But she doesn't like me anyway. Why would she feel bad if I finally got over her?" Naruto pondered. Cuddled closer to Naruto's chest, Hinata said, "She probably misses the attention that you used to give her and is now angry." Hinata said, "She likes attention." As Hinata nestled into his lap with her head resting in the nape of his neck, Naruto wrapped his arms around her and remarked, "Makes sense." Before she fell asleep, he felt her gently kiss it, which made him smile. As they passed through 2 enormous white gates, Sasuke declared, "This is it, Spring Country." Naruto was the first to notice the enormous palace emerge on the horizon as he strolled slowly through the closest town, where Princess Yukie resided. Then he shouted, "There," and pointed with his free hand that was not in Hinata's. "Come on," she smiled, "let's go." Sasuke and Naruto were embraced from the front door of Yukie's office, a backbreaking embrace that Hinata gladly avoided. She smiled as she finally let go of them and took a step back. "Naruto? Sasuke? Who's this new girl? Where's Sakura? You guys have grown into handsome young men. Are you the ninja I asked for?" she asked. In her late 20s, she was still fairly attractive, with bright eyes and long black hair. Since it was summer, well, spring. But still hot, she was dressed in a sleek blue dress. As she awaited a response, she gave them a soft smile. Naruto smiled and said, "Hello Yukie, this is Hinata-chan. And we're just here because we're traveling around for a while." Confounded, Sasuke questioned, "Why did you ask for ninja?" "So you aren't the ninja I asked for?" Yukie asked with a sad expression. Giving Yukie a soft smile, Hinata said, "That doesn't mean we won't help." When Yukie looked at the little girl, who was roughly the size of Naruto's upper chest, her eyes glowed. Yukie exclaimed, "You're so cute," and embraced Hinata tightly, a hug she was unable to escape. Yukie let go, and Hinata stepped back gracefully between the guys once more, giving Naruto and Sasuke a small elbow in the stomach for their laughter. Sasuke and Naruto laughed at Hinata's shocked expression. "So you can help?" Yukie asked once the men had calmed down. Sasuke responded on behalf of the group, "Yes." Pulling 3 pictures from her desk, she said gratefully, "Thank you. Well, there has been a rapist in the city, and I've asked for help because he's out of our league. He's raped these 3 young women in the past week, and with what we know about him, he's ninja." She added, "We also noticed that he goes after teenage girls, and always leaves the girl in the same alleyway when he's done with them." She spat out the last part of the sentence, her voice clearly disgusted. Naruto turned to Sasuke and Hinata, who were absorbed in their thoughts, and said with assurance, "We'll get him." "What are we going to do?" he asked. "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. Especially you, Hinata," Sasuke said, looking him in the eye. "What is it?" Hinata asked, looking up at him in the hopes that he hadn't reached the same conclusion as she had. Looking directly into her eyes, Sasuke said, "We're going to have to make you his next victim." "No, no, 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 no," Naruto barked at Sasuke, "we're not going to put her out there like that. I'll do it instead. I'll do my sexy jutsu and transform into a girl or something," he pleaded. "He's a ninja, Naruto. He'd be able to tell if you're using a transformation by the slight chakra you constantly give out," Sasuke objected. "Hinata isn't doing it." He firmly grasped her by the waist and wouldn't let her go. "It's the only way, isn't it?" Hinata sighed from Naruto's embrace as she turned to face Sasuke. Naruto shouted in defiance, "No, it's not the only way," while Sasuke nodded. Hinata softly questioned, "What do I have to do?" Sasuke stated bluntly, "So, practically, we are going to dress you like a slut." Naruto protested once more, saying, "I don't like this idea." "Neither do I." Hinata turned to face him and gave him a gentle peck on the cheek. "But I'll do it, okay? You won't be far away, and if something happens you can have dibs on bashing the guy up." He exhaled, "Okay. Let's get this over and done with." In search of clothing that would make Hinata stand out in a crowd, Sasuke, Naruto, Yukie, and Hinata browsed the stores. Naturally, Naruto was also present, expressing his disapproval of the plan every 5 minutes. Although he had consented to the plan, he was not required to approve of it. As she walked through the aisles, Yukie grabbed a pair of denim miniskirts and grinned at Naruto's protectiveness toward Hinata. As she handed the shorts to Hinata, she grinned and said, "This'll do nicely." Then she grabbed a tight blue shirt that would expose Hinata's stomach. "This is it." After giving the clothes to the objecting Hinata, she pushed her into the changing room. With a sigh, Hinata put on the extremely skimpy clothing that Yukie had given her. When the blue singlet reached her stomach, a gap appeared, revealing her toned abdomen. She was aware that it would be uncomfortable, but she had to do it even though her cleavage was partially visible. She sighed and pulled on the denim mini shorts that barely covered her thighs. She tugged at the shorts a little, but when she was unsuccessful in making herself feel at ease, she opened the doors to the changing room and left. "This must be worthwhile," she sighed and thought to herself. While Yukie grinned at the girl's appearance and Sasuke maintained an expressionless expression, Naruto was drooling at what he saw. Perfect. It looked better than she had anticipated. Prior to this, Yukie was unaware of Hinata's amazing physique. "I'm not letting her leave like that. There'll be 10 guys on her in a second," Naruto yelled as he abruptly stopped drooling. Yukie momentarily thought, that's it, She hurried around a corner and reappeared a few seconds later with a pair of silver high heels. She laid them on the floor and allowed the flushed Hinata to slide her feet into them, saying, "Wear these." Naruto said, "Man, you're so goddamn beautiful it's not even funny," as he accompanied her on her walk. She smiled slightly at him before turning to face Sasuke, who was just beginning to speak. "Okay, now you're ready. Keep this in your ear, and yell if you need anything, we'll be following you silently," he explained, passing her a small earpiece, which she put in her ear. "Oh, and one more thing. Don't ignore or avoid anyone unless you're positive that they aren't the rapist, okay? Don't worry, we'll be watching you and I'm sure Naruto wouldn't think twice before attacking them if they get too close." He patted her on the back. "Let's do this." Hinata gave herself a nod as she readied herself for her task. Naruto gave her a gentle peck on the lips before he and Sasuke vanished from the store, posing as regular citizens who were unwittingly heading in Hinata's direction for the evening. Before casually leaving the store, Hinata inhaled deeply and waited for the buzz in her ear that said, "Okay, go." She knew that people were staring at her when she left the store, but they weren't looking at her face. With an uncomfortable sigh, she kept walking down the street, waiting for someone to approach her, constantly looking around while maintaining a low profile. Through the reflection of a storefront window, she saw Naruto and Sasuke observing her while chatting among themselves about nothing specific, which made her smile. When Hinata felt someone slap her ass, she froze, resisting the impulse to turn around and strike the offender. The man walked around her and said, "Hey, baby," until he was looking directly at her. Glaring at the man in front of her, Hinata simply, "HMMPHED, softly, that is no way to speak to a lady." Her choice of words made him sneer. "Then how about we don't speak?" he said, leaning in and using his thumb to lift her chin. She pushed his hand away and turned to leave before he caught hold of her wrist, saying, "How about no?" He pulled her back to him and said, "I don't take no for an answer." Hinata had had enough of this man. As she was leaving, she had already examined his chakra coils, which were still closed. She swung around and punched him in the face, sending him crashing to the ground when he attempted to pull her back to him because he was not a ninja. When Naruto saw Hinata punch that man, he let out a sigh of relief. He was on the verge of doing it himself, but Sasuke stopped him. Knowing what he was going to do, Sasuke grabbed hold of him and held him away from the group, even though he was actually going to attack him as soon as he touched her ass. When Sasuke led Naruto into a cafe, he sighed, making it appear as though they had been going in this direction the entire time. They were able to hear everything that was said to Hinata, and she was able to hear them thanks to the earpiece that Sasuke had given her. Sasuke said softly, "Any sign of the rapist?" They heard Hinata's voice through the earpiece. "No, they all have had absolutely no ninja training so far. I think I'm going to head over to that alleyway where the victims showed up. Follow casually." "I still don't like this idea," Naruto grumbled, then softly said, "Please be careful." "I will." They were still unable to locate the rapist 10 minutes later. Hinata was growing impatient. Naturally, a few nice guys approached her and asked if she wanted a drink. She quickly checked their chakra coils and politely declined, even though she detested all these jerks. She was beginning to grow suspicious of this one guy, though, who was standing across the street and observing everything she did. Yes, there were plenty of guys who merely watched from a distance, but this one was unique. She had to approach him, and the only thing she could see from a distance was a bar. With a sigh, she made her way toward the bar, intending to check his chakra coils from a distance so he wouldn't see her. She hurriedly turned on her Byakugan after entering the bar, only to discover that he was not there. She was beginning to worry now. Keeping her eyes open and waiting for him to arrive, she remained in the crowded areas, sitting on the edge of the bar. When she couldn't find him, she began to leave the bar and go to the bathroom. Her eyes widened as she felt something stab her arm. She attempted to remove the needle with her other arm but discovered she was unable to move her limbs. Wishing she could turn around and confront the enemy, she cried out, "Guys? Shit. I can't move. Get over here fast." The final words she heard before everything went dark were, "We're coming. Be careful." Hinata felt pain in her ankles and wrists as she slowly forced her eyes open. Using her earpiece, Naruto said, "Hinata-chan? Where are you? Please, speak to me." Weakly, she whispered, "Naruto-kun?" Sasuke's voice said, "Hinata? Where are you?" Hinata fell back onto the floor after attempting to sit up but failing. "Sleeping." Quietly, she exclaimed, "Oh, shit. Guys, help." "What is it?" she said, more loudly than she wanted to. "I'm tied up, on a bed. That guy knocked me out and, guys, you gotta get here quickly." The door opened, and Hinata tried to activate her Baikugan, but he had clearly blocked her chakra, so she had to strain her neck to see. "So, I see you've woken up." This man was tall, dressed in dark clothing, had jet black hair, and was wild and spiky everywhere. His eyes, however, were the most peculiar feature of his face. They were vivid and deeply yellow. "Who are you?" inquired Hinata. He smirked as he walked closer, saying, "Me? Well, you can call me Lust." Hinata tried, "Would you be so kind and let me go?" He didn't say anything. "Why would I possibly do that? All day I've been following you, trying to avoid you as much as possible, because I knew this was going to happen. I know you're a ninja, so I had to use a different approach to get you. And I'm not letting you go." "Why are you doing this?" Hinata shivered, but it wasn't from the cold. Smirking, he said, "I can't help it, let's just say it's in my blood. Before we get partying, do you want to see the real me?" He raised an eyebrow, then pressed his hands together and muttered, "Kai." Staring into his deep yellow eyes, Hinata exclaimed, "Are you even human?" in shock at what she was witnessing. According to appearances, he was severely malformed, with small arms and massive, muscular legs. His once short jet black hair had grown to a length that reached halfway down his back. He had no wrinkles, but his back was hunched over, making him appear elderly. "There was a few mistakes during my creation. Me and my brothers didn't turn out like we were planned, but we still are just as strong." He walked over to Hinata. "I was supposed to leave town this morning, to meet with my brothers and my master, but you kept me here. Your beauty stopped me from leaving, and now I'm going to enjoy every minute of it." Naruto, who could hear everything that was said, was clearly the source of the growl that Hinata could hear coming from her earpiece. He dragged his clawed hand over her bare leg, and Hinata choked out, Don't touch me." He ascended onto Hinata gradually until his face was above hers and tears were streaming down her cheeks. The door suddenly flew open. And Lust was immediately pursued by two large relatives of the dog. Sasuke exclaimed in surprise, "What the hell is that thing?" "I don't care, just get it off of me." Hinata merely winced. Naruto was already there and kicked the creature hard in the side, causing him to collide with the room's sidewall. While Naruto turned back to free Hinata from her restraints, Sasuke pursued the beast. After cutting through her boundaries with a kunai, Naruto questioned, "Are you okay?" Without hesitation, she shook and threw her arms around Naruto's neck. He looked at her tenderly, gave her a gentle back rub, and then shifted her so he could meet her eyes. "Let's take out this bastard, okay?" As she nodded, Hinata's eyes hardened, and the two of them dashed to the battleground where Sasuke and Lust were engaged. Lust screamed, "You interrupted me. You will die." As Naruto and Sasuke charged, Naruto's arm held back, his fist clenched shut, and a Chidori sparking in Sasuke's hand. A hand caught the side of Sasuke's arm and threw him back against the wall next to him, stopping him as he pushed his Chidori towards Lust's chest. Naruto also had little luck, he was easily thrown away as soon as he approached. Hinata had also joined the battle, sprinting in with her palms facing down when Lust grabbed her leg and threw it to the ground. The sound of her leg snapping reverberated throughout the room, followed by a gasping cry of pain. Naruto became enraged at that scream and sent Roki to tend to Hinata while he charged, his features slightly altering to make him appear more animalistic. However, it did him no good. He was thrown aside once more after managing to land a strong blow that, fortunately, at least caused some blood to flow. Lust was aware that this man had a powerful power inside of him and that he needed to leave quickly in case he used it. Although the child was now easily defeated, Naruto would soon start using that power after he broke his girlfriend's leg. He glared before abruptly vanishing into thin air, shocking everyone with his sheer speed. "Well, I am out of here. Next time, you won't get away so easily. Me and my 6 brothers will kill you all if you get in our way. We have big plans for the future and you weaklings better not get involved or you will be exterminated." Sasuke turned to face Naruto and Hinata, who were now standing on Misaki, with Roki strolling beside them to ensure she didn't fall off, and said, "Something big is in our future." "Well, there's 7 guys. Do you think they're all that strong?" Naruto and Hinata said, nodding in agreement. "I don't doubt it." Hinata murmured, "And don't forget his master. Obviously there was someone who created him. And his brothers. If this guy can create 7 guys that strong, we will have a lot of training to do. We obviously need to stop them. But, they probably won't be doing anything soon, we just need to keep our eyes open for that sort of stuff." With a nod of agreement, Sasuke took command and led the group to the hospital, saying, "We can't underestimate these guys, or the results will be fatal. But we shouldn't worry about it right now. First, we need to get Hinata to the hospital. Sasuke and Naruto found themselves seated in a room they were all too familiar with. This time, however, they were seated in chairs and watched the young Hyuga twitch in her sleep rather than in the hospital bed. As he watched the girl with tender, almost exhilarating, anticipation, waiting for her to awaken, Sasuke grinned at Naruto's expression. However, when Hinata began to twitch more and mumble words that none of them could understand, the two men's smiles vanished. Sweat was streaming down her face, indicating that she was having a bad dream. After making eye contact, Naruto and Sasuke moved to each side of the girl and held her tenderly in an attempt to communicate with her. Naruto attempted to speak to Hinata, but was unsuccessful. Shush, Hinata, it's okay. You're having a nightmare. Sasuke was also failing. He was keeping her motionless to prevent her from shaking and even considered slapping her several times, but he refrained since Naruto would have tried to attack him. Despite staring directly at Naruto, Sasuke sighed when nothing worked and said, Hinata, come on, wake up. It's okay, everything's okay. Naruto exclaimed frantically, what do we do? She's freaking out. I don't know, but we need her to wake up. Sasuke patted the girl's back and gently sat her down in an attempt to wake her. Naruto instinctively leaned over her, who was still being held up by Sasuke, and kissed her on the lips because he couldn't bear to see her in that state. Her sudden tenseness caused Sasuke and Naruto to stand motionless as well, with Naruto's lips still on hers. Hinata instantly froze in her tracks. Hinata's eyes popped open, and she began to pant a little as both men leapt back. Are you okay? You were having a nightmare, Naruto said, staring intently into her eyes with a kind and considerate expression. She started crying right away and said, I was too weak, I'm still too weak. You're not weak, Hina-chan. You're strong, you've killed 2 Akatsuki members by yourself. Who are they, by the way? Naruto said aloud. Hidan and Kakuzu. They came after me when I was heading to Rain Country a while back. They never survived, Hinata clarified. Naruto grinned at her, pleased that the subject had shifted. See? You are strong, you're... A woman's voice cried out, I'm so sorry, Hinata-chan, as the door collapsed, leaving a gasping Yukie standing in the doorway. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Hinata smiled reassuringly and said, it's okay, Yukie. I'm fine. It worked out in the end, now the man is out of your country. Yeah, but, I'm sorry. Yukie pulled Hinata into a hug that crushed her vertebrae. As Yukie gently put Hinata back on the bed, Hinata reassured him, don't worry about it, all of us are alive. The freak is out of your beautiful country, so, if you think about it, that was a success, right? Yukie shouted, as though a light bulb had gone on above her head, no, I have to do something to make it up to you guys. I shouldn't have caused this mess. I know, come with me. Hinata began, looking down at her injured leg, Yukie, Yukie winked, causing Hinata and Naruto to flush deeply. Oh, don't worry. I'm sure Naruto won't mind carrying you. Especially since you're wearing those clothes, Yukie said. Yukie grinned and led the way out of the room, leaving the others to catch up. Oh, we all know you like it. Both teenagers avoided eye contact, their blushes still visible on their faces as Naruto swiftly picked Hinata up bridal style and chased after the other 2. Yukie yelled, we're here, as the 3 of them entered an ancient dojo that had no exterior signage identifying it. Naruto was the first to inquire, surveying the rather tidy but ancient and weathered wooden room. What is this place? Only the room's perimeter was surrounded by wooden beams that protruded from the roof. The floor was made of wooden planks, and the walls were wide cracks. The room's far end had a single door that was constructed of the same wood as the floor and beams. It was an old place all around. Moji-san. It's me, Yukie, and you have guests, Yukie said, her voice resonating throughout the room, without responding to Naruto's query. An elderly man suddenly materialized in the middle of the space, gazing out at the 4 humans, as well as 2 animals, in front of him. The elderly man leaned on his walking stick and said, what is it you wish, Yukie? I owe these 3 a great deal, and I would wish for you to help them. Yukie bowed, her gaze never leaving the bald man. I wish for you to teach these 3. Yukie nodded when Moji asked, are they ninja? Then yes, I shall train them, if they can beat me. I can't fight right now, my leg is in a cast, Hinata said, looking up with wide eyes. He stated plainly, then I will not train you. Naruto angrily glared at the elderly man, who was accompanied by Roki and Misaki growling. Hey, that's not fair, she's injured, and she got injured saving your goddamn country, he cried. Even Sasuke's expression was one of incredulity. He stated definitively, I will not train her if she does not fight me. I will only train her if she beats me. What if I beat you up enough for the both of us? Snarled Naruto, who kept glaring. Ignoring the murderous intent aimed at him, he declared, insolence will get you nowhere in life. With a soft sigh, Hinata looked up at Naruto and said, Naruto-kun? Can you put me down for a moment? Despite his hesitation, Naruto put her down gently. You aren't fighting, he said, kissing her forehead and telling her that he wouldn't consider any other options and would intervene if she tried to fight him. Moji.san. I am Hinata and I would like for you to train me and my two teammates. I can't fight you while injured, but I promise you that training me will be worth it in the end. I will learn whatever it is that you are willing to teach, without complaint. Please, give me a chance. Hinata grinned at his kind glance, indicating that he cared and wouldn't let her fight when she was injured. She then turned to Moji and bowed deeply, pressing one hand against Masaki for balance. He remained motionless for a moment, observing Hinata to assess her talent and resolve. What are your names? He asked after giving himself a gentle nod and turning to face the two men. When Sasuke bowed in respect to the elder, it was the first time he had spoken since they had arrived. Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto said stoically, Naruto Uzumaki. He only bowed to the man after Sasuke gave him an elbow. Fine. I will train you. Curious, Sasuke said, excuse me, but what are you going to teach us? With a simple smile, Moji led the group out the door at the end of the room and said, follow me. As they entered the tiny room at the end of the dojo, everyone's mouths opened in surprise, with the exception of Yukie and Moji. The room was filled with weapons, and the walls were composed of heavy, duty metal. Naruto exclaimed, this is awesome. Are you teaching us some of these? Moji gave Naruto a long, scowling look before saying, I will teach you one of these that suits your fighting style. He kept his gaze on the weapons while he said, I will start with, Sasuke. How can you pick our weapons when you don't know how we fight? Sasuke asked, looking at Moji bewildered. He took out a long sword with a dark, blue sheath lined with silver and handed it to Sasuke, saying, I didn't get into an argument with you for no particular reason, that was my way of finding out how you think. You, Sasuke, are a fast fighter. You work with your speed, and you are a close combat fighter. Actually, you all are close combat fighters. You are Uchiha, so you have the Sharingan, and this should be your weapon. Through a straightforward argument, Naruto, Hinata, and Sasuke were astounded by his depth of knowledge about them. Sasuke accepted the sword that was handed to him and bided his time until the others received theirs. Hinata, Moji said as he rummaged through the weapons once more, leaving Naruto bouncing up and down in anticipation. You are obviously a Hyuga, so you fight close combat with the Jayuken style. You are thin and flexible, and you don't like to fight, you prefer the painless option when you fight and go for the quick and painless death. He then produced a pair of gloves and a waistband that contained senbon and gave them to the girl, explaining that they were called knuckle sword gloves. You can use your Jayuken efficiently when wearing this, and as soon as you close your knuckles into a fist, sword blades will appear from each nail when you apply chakra. I will teach you how to use it further soon. Uzumaki Naruto. You are a close combat fighter who has learned a large range of jutsu. You have excellent stamina and a large chakra capacity. You need no help with your close combat. So the weapon I shall give you will help with long range fighting. Moji handed Naruto a large bow and a kit of arrows with a sling across his back. Hinata nodded and bowed courteously as she accepted the gloves and senbon from him. This can also be used as a distraction, so a teammate can get the enemy while occupied by an arrow flying at them. With a radiant smile, Naruto bowed to Moji and said, Arigato. Now, I shall teach you. With his left arm twitching slightly and his face down on the ground, Naruto questioned, Am I dead, Hina-chan? With a simple smile, Hinata sat down beside him, cross-legged, and said, No, Naruto-kun, you're alive. Despite his soreness from training, Naruto managed to look up at her and say, No, I'm pretty sure I'm dead, because I'm looking right at an angel. Naruto's cheesy remark, You're cute, Naruto-kun. Corny, but cute. And I'm positive you're alive right now, caused Hinata to blush adorable ly. Naruto got himself to sit down and grumbled, Well, I guess that's good. But old man Moji likes to torture me too much. Standing a few feet away from the group, Sasuke sighed and asked, Haven't you thought that he might torture you because you call him old man all the time? With a sigh, Naruto got up and brushed the dirt from his new black pants. Teme? When did you get here? He asked. With the intention of getting the three of them new ninja attire, Yukie recently took them out to town. When Yukie set her mind to something, nothing could stop her from taking the three of them shopping, even though none of them really wanted her to. Hinata was the first to receive new clothing, which included black shorts, a tight white shirt, and, of course, black gloves. She also had her kunai pouch on her left hip. The word, ukami, wolf, was printed in black on the back of her white shirt, which was plain on the front. About 27 senbon were concealed in her clothing, and she also had 50 more in her kunai pouch. She was becoming accustomed to using senbon and concealing them in a variety of locations, such as in her hair, shorts, under her gloves, and even down her bra. She was aware that she would still have some weapons on her without anyone noticing if she misplaced her kunai pouch or if they were looking for her weapons. Then again, they probably wouldn't notice the senbon in her hair even if they stripped her. Hinata remembered Naruto giving her the fake white camellia behind her ear with another cheesy remark. "My love for you will last until this flower wilts." Naruto received a big kiss for that one. Hinata smiled as she reached up to touch it. She was sure she would wear this flower behind her ear for a very long time because he was pretty good at making cheesy but endearing remarks to her occasionally. It also went well with her attire. She was also wearing the necklace that Tsunade had given Naruto. Hinata had attempted to return it to him after they had reconnected, but he had told her to keep it and asked her to take care of it for him. The next unfortunate casualty of a wardrobe change was Naruto. He was dressed in a dark orange jacket, black shinobi pants, a dark blue muscle shirt, and, of course, his Konoha Hite.8 was shining brilliantly on his forehead. He now wore a plain orange jacket with the word Kitsune, Fox, engraved on the back and his signature red swirl on each shoulder. Yukie had worked hard to have an engraving made on the back of each one. Additionally, he carried his bow and arrow on his back, which he could easily reach and use with little effort. On top of that, he proudly wore the silver wolf necklace Hinata had given him in a letter so long ago. Naruto was pleased with his new attire and his teammates, well, mostly the shorts his girlfriend was wearing, which flaunted her powerful, smooth legs, which he loved. However, he immediately pushed those ideas from his mind when he recalled her remark that no one would be able to find all of her senbon concealed in her clothing. He smiled contentedly to himself, glad that she was nice and would never hit him with a senbon anyway. Unless they were training, that is. After Naruto received an upside whack to the head for complaining about shopping, Sasuke learned to stop complaining and accepted his punishment, ostensibly voluntarily, in order to avoid getting hurt. With the exception of color, Sasuke's attire was very similar to Naruto's. His pants were the same shade of black as Naruto's, while his muscle shirt was a light gray. Instead of Naruto's red swirl, he wore a dark blue jacket with the Uchiha clan symbol on the shoulders. Hubby, Snake, was also written on the back of Sasuke's jacket. He was wearing his kunai pouch on his left leg and his sword sheathed on his right. Sasuke glanced up at the other two, who appeared to be contemplating something, as evidenced by their distant gazes while they remained on the training floor. As he looked at the couple as they jolted out of their reverie, Sasuke recalled that he had forgotten to respond to Naruto's question. "I got here just now. Moji.san says that training's over for the day. We have our finishing test tomorrow, and we have to beat him to finally finish our training." Naruto grinned broadly and said, "Oh, yeah, we'll kick the old man's ass. Sasuke? Can you help me up?" With a laugh, Sasuke slung Naruto's arm around his shoulders and led the way back to their hotel, saying, "Come on, Dobi, let's get back to the hotel." With Sasuke walking a few meters ahead of them and Roki and Misaki at their sides, Hinata said to Naruto, "Okay, let's make a deal. If we beat Moji.san, I will let you take me on a date tonight." With a broad smile, Naruto said, finally. He had been urging her and attempting to arrange a formal date for a long time, but they had always been too busy or worn out from training. But what if we lose? Hinata merely shot him a cryptic glance before asking, "Will we?" Which caused Naruto to grin. As they strolled casually in the direction of the dojo, he took her hand and said, "You're right, we won't lose." With his left hand securely gripping his walking stick, Moji stood in the middle of the dojo and addressed the three teenagers, saying in his sage voice, "A few rules you have to follow. 1. Only one of you can battle me at a time. Think of it as if it's a wrestling match. You have to tag another person so they can jump in and fight. All you need to do is yell out, 'Switch,' and then swap with another person. 2. No nin jutsu, but you can use chakra to strengthen your moves and weapons, but Naruto.kun can use his shadow clone jutsu, and Hinata-chan can use her Jayuken because it's her taijutsu style. 3. You can't use Roki.kun or Misaki. Chan during this fight, and 4, only you will win once either of us are unable to fight, which means if even one of you are unconscious or unable to continue, the match is over, understood? Hi. They all exclaimed simultaneously, then turned to face one another. Who's first? Naruto inquired. With assurance, Sasuke said, you. Although nobody had spoken, Sasuke was essentially the group's leader, and nobody really objected to that decision. Because he remained silent and stayed in the background during most fights, people assumed Naruto was in command, but all three of them were aware that Sasuke was essentially in charge of the group due to an unwritten agreement. Naruto, you shall go first. You have the most stamina out of all of us, and your shadow clones would be able to see how he fights. Me and Hinata will watch and decipher his strengths and try to find a weakness as you fight him, then tell you what we came up with when we swap. With Masaki and Roki lying down next to the chairs, heads on their paws, Naruto grinned and said, okay, that's fine with me. Let's get this going. Sasuke and Hinata were sitting on the edge of the dojo, where 2 chairs were already prepared and waiting. Moji said, adopting a new pose that none of the 3 had ever seen before, as you wish. His walking stick was in front of him, both hands gripping it firmly, and he was leaning forward a little with his legs spread shoulder length apart. Naruto quickly dissected his stance and saw that it appeared to be defensive, so he needed to exercise caution. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, he yelled, pulling his hands together in a well-known hand gesture. 5 clones appeared in a line beside him, 3 charging and 2 reaching for their bow and arrows. Moji threw his walking stick across the ground, tripping up 2 of the 3 clones, but they soon regained their balance. The real Naruto remained in the back and watched. Moji's walking stick knocked away the first arrow fired by the 2 who held their bows out and pointed them at him, while the other struck a clone, thereby releasing it. Moji was defending himself admirably when the Naruto clones kicked and punched him. He then released another clone and, without the Naruto's noticing, stabbed the clone with a kunai he took out of his pocket. But when Naruto threw an arrow at him and unexpectedly struck him in the calf, and when the Naruto he was fighting closely with punched him in the shoulder, Moji almost lost it. A concealed button on Moji's staff, however, caused 3 tiny black balls to roll out of the bottom of his walking stick before the clone could do any harm. All 3 of them exploded in black smoke, filling the dojo entirely. Sasuke and Hinata heard Naruto exclaim, all my clones are dispatched, and I can't see through this smoke. About 3.5 seconds later. Switch. I'm the only one who can see through the smoke and we need to make sure we conserve our energy as much as possible, shouted Hinata, holding her Byakugan open. As he ran in the direction of Hinata's voice, Naruto yelled, okay, and Hinata ran out onto the dojo with her Byakugan activated. As Hinata assumed her stance, with her left hand fisted beneath her chin, blades already out, and her right hand forward, palm out, one leg in front of the other, Sasuke assisted Naruto onto the chair and informed him of everything he saw. She ran toward his figure in the smoke, saying, let's do this Moji, sensei. As she got to him, she saw him adopt a defensive posture and duck the kunai that were hurled at her. He knew she was a skilled close combat fighter, so he didn't want her to get too close. He was attempting to stop her. She swiftly used her bladed hand to retrieve some senbon that was concealed beneath her left glove and hurled it at Moji, but he detected it and ducked before they could impale his neck and momentarily paralyze him as she had intended. The next thing she knew, senbon was coming out of the end of his staff and flying at her at a frightening rate. In order to avoid the senbon, Hinata lowered herself as low as she could and spat one of her own out of her mouth, which was aimed at his foot. She was fortunate that he was unaware of that one until it impaled a ligament in his foot, which increased his need for the walking stick. Hinata grinned to herself as she leapt to her feet and charged at Moji once more. Her clawed hand swung across his torso, but his staff stopped it. This was merely a ruse. Her left hand was sent over to his arm, which was holding the staff, and it partially blocked the tenketsu in his arm. By this point, the smoke had completely dissipated from the room, and to Hinata's surprise, the bottom of his wooden staff abruptly fell away, revealing a long blade that resembled a sword with a wooden hilt. He swung around and knocked Hinata off her feet, but she managed to dodge the blade by twisting her body in midair, but many senbon impaled her. Breathing heavily, Hinata landed on her feet and performed a few backflips to put some distance between them. Then she retreated to the chairs and yelled, switch, Sasuke, he's got a sword. You would be best suited for fighting him now since you know how swordsmen fight. You did good, Sasuke said as he walked past her, patting her on the back. He then proceeded to the field, where Hinata sat down and began tending to her wounds. Naruto sat down and asked, any weaknesses? I tore a ligament in his left ankle, and he can't use any chakra in his right hand anymore, so that means no more tricky stuff with his staff. He won't be able to change it anymore, so it will stay a sword. Hinata summed up. Before returning his attention to the battle, Naruto simply grinned and tousled her hair a little, saying, "That's my girl." Since he had already faced Naruto and Hinata, Moji was already breathing heavily. Sasuke and Moji were only parrying and blocking until Sasuke used his free hand to draw a kunai from his kunai pouch and pierced Moji's left shoulder. However, Moji took advantage of that by spinning his leg across the floor, tripping Sasuke, and then slicing Sasuke's leg with his sword. Fortunately for Sasuke, the wound was not deep, but it hurt. He immediately returned to stance and charged again, feigning, parrying, striking, dodging, and continuing to close up with their sensei while the other two watched closely. To divert Moji's attention, Sasuke noticed something shining on the ground out of the corner of his eye. Reaching down, he grabbed the senbon and threw it deadly accurately at Moji's injured arm before charging in with his sword before Moji could realize what was happening. When he was hit, Sasuke grinned and cut Moji's left leg, making it useless. Then, he leapt forward and put his sword to Moji's throat. He grinned and said, "We win." As Hinata rushed over and began tending to Moji's wounds before tackling Sasuke's, Moji nodded and Sasuke withdrew his sword, putting it away at his side. Everyone was soon in perfect condition because she had already healed Naruto while the two were watching the fight from a distance. Moji began by saying, "You did well," as the six of them, including the animals, sat on the floor. "You have all passed my expectations and there is nothing more I can teach you. What you need now is experience, and, knowing Naruto, he will be getting in enough trouble for all of you to be able to get more than enough of experience." Naruto objected rather loudly to that, to which Sasuke and Hinata both laughed. He grinned softly and received an embrace from Hinata. "I am proud to be teaching you, and, one day, when you all are highly known ninja, I will be proud to tell people of how I taught these legends. You've probably stayed here in Spring Country for far too long, you should probably continue your travels. But if you ever pass by, you know where to find me." After gently breaking off her embrace, Hinata said, "This is definitely not the last time we'll see you, Moji Sensei." She then bowed respectfully, kissed the man on the cheek, and said, "Thank you." Everyone laughed as Naruto yelled, "Hey, nah, now look old man, you're stealing my girlfriend away from me. Goodbye, old man. This is probably the last time we'll see you in a while," he said, extending his hand for Moji to shake. With a sharp glance at his teammates, who merely grinned, Hinata blushing slightly, Sasuke then extended his hand to be shaken and said, "Yes, we shall leave tomorrow, as I heard someone has a date tonight." He also bowed respectfully as they made their way back to their hotel to pack and prepare Naruto and Hinata for their date. "Goodbye, Moji-san." Sasuke, who was only wearing a pair of black, tinted jeans and was constantly muttering to himself about his blue shirt, smirked with amusement as he watched Naruto plod around the hotel room that he and Naruto shared. About 30 minutes ago, Sasuke noticed the shirt partially concealed beneath Naruto's pillow, but he had no intention of telling Naruto about it anytime soon. Furthermore, he wasn't technically lying because Naruto hadn't asked. Roki let out a sigh, deciding that it had lasted long enough after seeing the shirt his master was searching for. "Baka, check under your pillow." "There it is," yelled Naruto as he grabbed the shirt and put it on, completing all the buttons except the top 3, as Roki instructed. When Naruto laughed, Sasuke said, "Well, that took you half an hour." "Half an hour? Half an hour? Shit, Hinata's going to be here soon?" Naruto then put on his shoes, tried unsuccessfully to tame his golden hair, and made sure he had his frog wallet, Gamma-chan, in his pocket before setting off once more. Knock knock, Naruto swiftly picked up the white and lavender flowers from his bench and ran to the door, opening it, only to have his eyes widen and his mouth fall open in shock. In front of him stood Hinata, dressed in a lavender sundress that was a shade darker than her eyes, a little above her knees, strapless, and adorned with a lighter lavender belt around her waist. She wore light blush and mascara, and her hair was secured in a stylish bun with hair sticks. Naruto's openly gaping and amazed expression made her flush. As he approached Naruto, Sasuke sighed and moved his hand over to raise Naruto's jaw so it was no longer hanging down in awe. "I think the words you were looking for are, 'You look beautiful, you speechless doby.'" Naruto nodded softly and gave Hinata the bouquet he was holding while kissing her hand. "HMM, he hummed in agreement. "Have fun, Hinata. Imouto, and if Naruto does anything stupid, who am I kidding? Of course he'll do something stupid. Just don't be afraid to Jayuken him out of the country. We can always look for him later. Sasuke grinned as Naruto made a half-coherent protest in his daze before being silenced and being escorted out of the room by Hinata, who giggled at her new moniker from Sasuke. Hinata grinned. I'm sure he'll be fine. Hinata smiled and flushed as Sasuke grinned back. Yeah, because now he's so speechless he can barely say 2 words. But I'm pretty sure it translates to, you look gorgeous. As Misaki entered the room, Hinata led Naruto out and closed the door behind her. Thank you. Sasuke.ni. And look after Misaki and Roki for us, please, Hinata said. When the two were out in the streets, Hinata said, well, where are we going, Naruto.kun? By this point, Naruto had jolted out of his reverie and smiled at her, saying, first, we are going to get something to eat. He took her hand and led the way. Before they reached Kira's restaurant, Naruto led the group through the town. Grinning, Naruto ushered Hinata inside. As they entered, the server inquired, do you have a reservation? With a nod, Naruto said, it's under Uzumaki. After nodding and consulting the paper he was holding to find the name, the server pointed to their booth and said, that is your table. The waiter will be there shortly. Hinata grinned and said, thank you, before she and Naruto went to their booth and sat down. As they sat down, Naruto said, well, we're leaving this place tomorrow. Where do you think we should go next? Not sure, we could always just wander and just end up somewhere. I wouldn't really mind. She pondered the idea. He rested his elbows on the table and rested his head on his hands. Yeah, same here. This is starting to feel a little bit like a holiday, don't you think? He said. Yeah, well, apart from all the training and fighting we do, it is kind of like a holiday. She chuckled, but we would be training anyway if it were a holiday, so it isn't much different. With a piece of paper and pen in her hands, a young woman approached the booth and said, hello, I'm Keita, your server for today. Have you decided what you would like to order today? While eating, Naruto and Hinata engaged in a lighthearted conversation while placing their speedy order. When Keita returned to pick up their bill, Naruto grinned and said, that was delicious. Yes, Hinata said with a nod, thank you, Keita.san. To both of them, Keita grinned and said, you're very welcome, Hinata.san. After saying their brief goodbyes and leaving the restaurant, Hinata turned to face Naruto and asked, well, what's next? While taking his hand and bending slightly against him. Until they were standing outside a movie theater, he simply grinned and said, here we are. Come on. Let's go check what movies are on. Both Naruto and Hinata froze when they read, The Lost Ninja, Scarred, Icha Icha. The movie, and hurried by. The Jinchuriki, they both said. The Jinchuriki, huh? It's supposed to be a horror. Well, Hina-chan, do you want to see how wrong these guys are with their facts? With a simple smile, Hinata said, yeah, let's watch it. Naruto purchased popcorn and tickets, and before long, the two of them were seated in the rear of the theater, anticipating the start of the show. My guess is that there's some evil Jinchuriki that goes around killing people because that's what Jinchurikis do, he laughed. Hinata replied, yeah, and then someone will save the day by killing the dreadful Jinchuriki. He gave a snort and said, not gonna happen. As the film began, Hinata nodded in agreement, saying, yeah, I'd like to see them come after us. The film told the story of two ninjas, a boy and a girl, who bonded before a Jinchuriki showed up in their nation and attempted to murder them. When the Jinchuriki was unable to speak intelligibly, Naruto complained, this is bad. We can talk. It's not like we're retarded or something, together. We have fast healing. And we aren't dumb. Hinata nodded in agreement, and since when does a kunai knock us down? As he picked up another handful of popcorn, Naruto concluded, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. Hinata laughed when Naruto used the well-known stretch and drape move halfway through the film, cuddling up to him and saying, you are so corny, Naruto.kun. Well, it worked, didn't it? He smiled back. She smiled and put her head on his shoulder, saying, I like your corniness anyway. Okay, I want you to make out you're watching the movie when I say so, got it? Naruto said, picking up a piece of popcorn. He threw the popcorn at a man seated a few seats ahead of them after Hinata nodded and gave him a perplexed look. The man turned to look behind him, wondering what he felt on the back of his head, but Naruto whispered, watch. Both of them found the movie to be very interesting at that moment. As she picked up a piece of popcorn, Hinata grinned at Naruto and said, you know, you should be going for the girls. It would scare the hell out of them. Hinata selected a girl who appeared to be trembling as she cuddled up to her boyfriend. She threw the popcorn at her, striking her squarely in the back of the head, causing her to jump and squeak half-chokily. That one. As the two feigned to be watching the film again, Naruto teased, I never knew you were so mean. With a smile, Hinata said, I've probably been around Sasuke.ni too long. Chuckled. That's fine with me, but as long as you don't start going around saying, HN, all the time, or else I'm going to have to slap you. He was joking. I'll keep that in mind. As the two left the movie theater, Naruto sighed, well, you were right. He did save the day by killing the Jinchuriki. As they kept walking, Hinata pondered, I wonder what would have happened if they all knew that we were Jinchuriki. Naruto looked up and realized they were at a park playground. Well, they'd be running like hell. Or, they'd be coming after us with kunai. Naruto laughed. He sat down on the swing and patted his lap to signal to Hinata to take a seat. Come on, let's sit down. Didn't you always used to sit on a swing back in the academy? Hinata asked, grinning at him and sitting on his lap. Yeah, I didn't have any friends, so I'd sit by myself on the swing, he said with a smile. Hinata smiled at him, half turning around to face him. Well, I didn't have any friends either. I was too shy to talk to people. But anyways, you're not alone anymore, and neither am I. And I love you, you know that. With a smile, he said, I love you too, and you better not forget it. He leaned in to kiss her. As she put her arms around his neck and intensified the kiss, Hinata whispered, I don't think I could even if I wanted to. He muttered back, I wouldn't want to, as she combed through his hair. When Hinata felt Naruto take his hands off the swing and put them around her waist, she smiled into the kiss. A crash. With Hinata on top of him, Naruto fell backwards off the swing, breaking the kiss as the two erupted in laughter. Isn't that sad how a talented ninja like you can't even stay on a swing without falling off? Hinata asked with a smile accompanied by a giggle. Naruto stroked her nose. Well, it gets kind of difficult when he's distracted by kissing the most beautiful girl in the world. It was Hinata's turn to kiss him on the nose after she laughed once more and said, You are so corny, but I love you for it. Naruto cracked a grin. While I wouldn't mind kissing you for another hour or so, we've got to get back or Sasuke will be pissed off and we need to get ready to leave tomorrow. After a final kiss, Hinata got up and said, Okay, let's get back to our hotel. As Naruto entered their hotel room, Sasuke questioned, Why are you covered in grass? With a small laugh, Naruto says, Fell of a swing. Sasuke was just saying, I'm not going to ask how. Come on, we have to pack tonight so we can be ready to leave tomorrow morning. Why the rush? We aren't going anywhere special, and we've still got around 9 months to travel. Naruto murmured. As he completed sealing everything into his scroll, Sasuke explained, We have pretty large bounties on our heads, you know. We can't stay in one place too long, because once people realize who we are, there'll be everyone after us. Following his lead, Naruto yawned as he concluded, saying, Well, I'm done. Goodnight Teme. Okay, I get it. Night Dobi.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.